Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Drop Frames here, where we're going to spoil the shit out of Final Fantasy VII, and then somehow figure out what Nomura has on Max. That's just led him to, spawning all these, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what to. We'll get to that soon.
Okay.
Let's also start off with
Real quick.
sick.
So, yeah, I am sick, first of all, but also since I haven't been able to say this since the end of Drop Frames.
Wait a minute, hold on. Don't spoil it yet. We got to say we're going to spoil stuff first. And then you can say your spoils. Go ahead.
No, say it.
We're going to spoil stuff. Cohh, go ahead.
Ending. Oh my God, dude. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh,
I feel
okay.
like
You didn't even spoil it. You didn't even spoil it.
No, I just my God, dude. Like there's been, it's kind of funny because, I'm generally a pretty talkative guy. I generally say what I'm thinking during games, and even if I'm feeling a lot, I can generally piece it out. But I think it was Strippin or somebody told me they watched the end of my thing, and I basically was just sitting there for 20 straight minutes, just like.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
I think we all.
Yeah, I just didn't. Yeah. I was just like, okay, so I'm going to try to absorb this more than anything, right?
I haven't seen anyone really truly react to it in the moment. Because it's a little bit of a mind fuck.
It's overwhelming.
I think the split happens there. Yeah.
You know what it really reminds me of is that at the end of a very specific game, you find out you're some crazy squid baby. And I'm like, huh.
Well, now you
and then you go back and you play it again. You're like, huh.
What game are we referencing here?
That's Kingdom Hearts 1.
Oh, yeah.
The first one.
Yeah.
The original PS2, because that's the one with the extra, the extra layer.
Right.
Oh wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the real games. I thought we were spoiling anime. I was like,
yeah.
But yeah,
do the research.
And like we also talked about on the shows, like I was definitely one of those people that was so vehemently angry at Square for calling the game Final Fantasy VII Remake when we knew it was only 20 to 30% of the game. I was like, how are you not going to call it episode 1? How are you not going to call it chapter 1? Like, I made a whole little video that we would link during the playthrough, and it was just me being like, what are you doing, Square? This is disingenuous. And then, it's funny because so many people watched that video, especially after other streamers had completed their playthrough. And they were just like, oh man, Cohh is not gonna like that video when he's done with this. And of course, right at the end of the game, I was like, oh, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right.
Oh, I didn't get it.
It even upon immediate completion, you don't even get it, right? It takes some time to realize that, they're literally a character is remade. Oh,
yeah.
So
that means that the next one
so
isn't going to be part 2.
Symbolism in the characters. And who the ghosts represent. It's funny because towards the end of my playthrough, I jokingly said something, and looking back, it's kind of like, well, maybe so. I started naming the ghosts different forum trolls that were complaining how the game was going against the original lore. I was like, oh look, there's Profart69 and there's XXX Sephiroth Hater 1, and it was just fly, and it's like, holy shit, dude. Once it was over, and I watched a few other people beat it, including you, Max. That was an amazing couple hours in the morning.
Thank you.
Watched a couple key videos that point out some things that I would have missed. Let's be blunt, and put the whole puzzle together. And it's like, dude, this entire game has become a commentary on remaking a classic that I'm pretty sure the original people knew they couldn't remake. They couldn't, by remaking that, it would have taken away from what it is. So they're giving themselves the world to kind of resculpt that into something maybe even more meaningful, by keeping the base the original,
right?
Like keeping that as a work of art, and then just giving a different perspective on that artwork instead of trying to replace the artwork.
They even said for years that one of the scariest things would be to remake Final Fantasy VII. A lot of them were nervous about it in many ways. But then one of the things that actually got them on board to oh, we need to start doing this was technically the mortality of a lot of them, because the writer is much older and Nomura is mid 40s, and all these guys by the time this is done, how old are we going to be? So no shit, that was actually one of the reasons why they they kicked this thing in. We got to start now, and that was like no joke, like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of led into this, and I think I was going to save this question towards the end, but I'll do it now. Is Square like back making good Final Fantasy games with this one? Because I kind of feel like this is a resurgence of Final Fantasies of past. At least
considering
for me.
Capcom, like, right? Capcom's sort of back right now in many ways. It feels like a lot of these big JP companies are sort of like, kicking it into gear.
Yeah.
I feel like this is them kicking the door open. This is the introductory paragraph to what the actual work is going to be, and seeing how they're going to use this new medium to retell / tell a new story is going to be extremely interesting. So what they've basically said, they basically played it pretty safe with this in an amazingly good way by keeping most of the content as the original, which was really safe and really good. And they also made it a lot better in so many ways by making the characters so relatable and giving them so much life. And you actually connect with them on levels that I didn't even realize existed in the original for me. So for people that really liked the original, but like the remake opened doors I didn't know were there. And now that those doors have been opened, at the very end, they were like, and this is what we can do with it. We have taken away the rules. We have opened everything. We have put in this composer via this 6-foot gray-haired god that is now going to, like, using puppet strings decide how this is all going to play out on his new stage. And we're going to see what that work is going to be. Now, the really interesting thing is it's going to be like, are they going to use this same kind of thing where they're going to continue to retell the story, but put in these little flavors of new? Or are we going to see something that's drastically different? Are we going to get like a kind of like the original where it was, like 80-ish% what we expected, but then not including the ending, 20% just kind of interesting new stuff? Are we going to get more of that?
Yeah.
Or are they setting up a divergence that's just completely mind-blowing? Now, one thing I'm really interested to hear Max talk about, because I've purposely been avoiding a lot of the stuff he's been doing since his big ending spiel, and I'm sure he's learned a ton since then. I want to know what Max thinks about this whole Zack introduction. I want to know, like, where are we going with this? And is this going to be a huge part of the next thing? Or is this going to just be, or is it like just more of an homage?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of theories. I actually really want to hear what Strippin sort of felt about like the experience in general, and because I know Strippin, you're a pretty big FF7 fan before all this, right?
Yeah. It was actually the first game I ever bought when I was younger. So there's a lot of nostalgia there for me.
Not important.
No, I had a paper round and I bought 7, and my parents got me a computer for Christmas. That was it. That was like my whole introduction to RPGs and stuff. But yeah, I've been going super hard this week, just trying to like decipher the ending. And Zack, honestly, the Zack part is the only bit I'm kind of stumped on, because there really is nothing.
I'll say me too. Like if there's one thing, like there's a lot of theories and a lot of deduction and a lot of evidence and a lot of stuff that you can sort of come to a conclusion on throughout the game on second playthrough. That's why I think this game actually incentivizes New Game Plus a lot. Like why it wants you to play its hard mode, because it wants you to go back and make story observations that you might not have caught the first time. But in all honesty, dude, the Zack aspect of it is just completely over my head. I'm not going to act like I have an exact idea of where it's going. I have an idea, but I see several directions of where they could be taking it. And to be completely honest, I don't even think we're going to see a lot of Zack in the second game. I think he's going to be like this thing that sort of exists in like, sort of by the side of our characters,
right?
But sort of the same way that this game is. He's like in the end, and he's like a nod. He's practically like the Nick Fury of the game, where it's like suddenly at the end of an Iron Man movie, you see Nick Fury, and you're like, "Whoa, what does that mean? What's going on, huh?"
Yeah,
it's like I almost feel that they're taking, because they're trying to they're making a Final Fantasy VII cinematic universe. They're just taking so many Marvel isms with what makes Marvel movies so good. And similar to Marvel, right? Like, where the story's going if you paid attention to the comics and stuff.
Right,
It's just, how are we going to get there? Like, in what fashion? And that's kind of similar to what we're doing here. So, dude, that last shot of the one right after Cloud and Aerith and everyone sort of pass by each other, where it's like, oh, they're not in the same plane of existence, like they're never going to meet each other type thing.
Yeah.
I feel like Cloud on his shoulder, and them walking in the rain towards that edge of Midgar, that visual is so hauntingly similar to the exact same way. Spoilers, Zack gets shot in the back very unceremoniously in the original 7.
Yeah.
I can touch on that.
So
that's part of my breakdown to the end. So when we get to that, I will. Yeah,
Okay.
I will say though.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced that Aerith and Zack didn't see or notice each other.
Oh no, they didn't. I think the game shows us that.
Yeah, and her reference to like missing the still sky is because it doesn't rain under the plate, and the last time it rained, Zack died. So she feels the rain, and I think for her it's like bringing back a painful memory. I don't think they were related at all. So I think that personal theory is debunked about how they sensed each other and all that shit. I think it was more of an homage.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
JP?
no, I was gonna say go ahead, but Max, by all means.
Well,
Um,
just real quick.
Okay, go ahead. We're gonna do this a lot.
yeah, right.
Go, your turn.
One interesting thing though that's kind of messed with me a little bit is obviously we're working with divergent timelines. Obviously we're working with time dilation in some format. But the thing that's kind of strange to me is there seems to be a persistent mini timeline in the fact that Midgard gets enshrouded by, what would you call it, the spirit shield. When little ghosties start making the plot ghosts.
Yeah.
The plot ghosts start making the shield around the city. What is the significance of Zack noticing that for the first time earlier in history in apparently a separate timeline?
So I think I have an answer. And I think, this is all after looking at this shit for a lot and paying attention to a lot of theories and ideas. I think the thing that makes the most sense is there's something that they show you at the end of the game that all of our characters are sort of witnessing. Despite what time, when, and how is Biggs alive? Like, is Sector 7 the same? Is Zack's alive? Our main characters, like, what happens consistently through all of it? They all see it gone. They all see like the big glowing aspect where, like, the little magic Final Fantasy sparkles are everywhere.
Yeah,
that effect is them being dead. Is essentially fate being removed from the situation. But our characters in the past see it. Our characters in potentially the present are aware of it. It's like this sort of like time convergence that happens in the past, future, or present happens to everyone, or any characters that we're familiar with. Like, we can't say it's happening to everyone and anyone, but at least to Zack in the past and our characters in our game present, they were witnessing some crazy like Aurora Borealis that was time essentially, or fate, our planet in control of fate going away. So at that point, it's like, oh, there's a big change, right? Zack lived. And that's something that broke the planet's control of what the hell's going on. So all of our characters were aware of this like big temporal event that, oh, these things went away now. That's my interpretation of it, at least.
So, and real quick, I said that Zack noticed it, but I don't think I should have said that the game decided to show us that, because I don't think Zack noticed the ghost shield.
He never saw the ghost shield.
Hey, yeah,
no, he was.
I just realized,
like walking up. Yeah.
So the plot ghosts formed the shield originally to prevent events from transpiring, which is them like leaving. Oh, what's up?
I think it's more like the plot ghost shield is happening when our characters are fighting, right? When our characters are battling the final bosses of the game, and when they're battling those
expression.
I know he's exploding.
I don't want to interrupt Max. Go finish your thought, and then I'm just going to scream and finally.
So
go ahead, Max.
So with these characters are battling the ghosts, right? Like, there's this big dome around Midgar, and it's showing that even though Zack is in the past, that dome is there, right? It's not that they were happening back when Zack was happening. It's that these things aren't relevant to past, present, or future. They are time, right? It's fate. What's happening to everyone at any given time. So at that point, once our characters beat the ghosts, beat the stupid plot ghosts, boom, it affects Zack in the past. It affects our characters in the present. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I had to be made aware of it in the past few. Biggs being alive isn't a part of the temporal event. Biggs lived. If you go back to the chapter select, Biggs didn't die up on the platform.
The tower, yeah.
Yeah, it actually
I think
says
it says he gets wounded, right? Yeah, it says he got wounded.
Jesse is dead. Unfortunately for everybody, Jesse is not making it. It says that she passes. But Biggs, I think that was the red herring, that it seems like they kill Biggs, but if you go back to the chapter select, they don't. And it appears that Biggs is like missing a limb or something when he's under the bed sheet. So I think that was sort of a misdirection that they were throwing in there, that, oh, it seems like Biggs is brought back to life because of the temporal event. I think he just survived somehow. Did Kate Sith save him? Who knows, right? But I think that's one thing that is sort of like leading us one direction, and they specifically did that.
Yeah.
So if the plot ghost shield was something that went across time, though, what do you think was the significance of them showing it being created at the end of the game? Because if with all of that kind of pomp and circumstance around the ghosts forming the shield, trying to stop them from leaving the city as a whole, at what point would that have happened in the past to then have that shield created at that point? One interesting thing that I just realized that's kind of interesting, because the plot ghost shield, and I do want to hear what JP has to say about this. The ghost shield, whatever.
Mine's more of a grandeur. That's just
the canon story of Crisis Core, which, by the way, is the only game that made me cry at work when I finished it. I was not ready for that. I was sitting here in front of a computer, just like bawling, and my friend is like, "Are you okay?" PSP. I just need to finish this scene. It's so beautiful. But one thing that's kind of interesting is, I wonder if the shield forming around the city during the Zack part is actually not letting the soldiers leave the city that are the ones that kill Zack.
Yeah, that's. I think that's what. I'm on the same level as you on that one. I think like the plot ghosts are occupied with this Sephiroth thing, right? Like as Aerith describes them, they're the last line of defense of the planet, and the whole reason the plot ghosts are there, you got to realize the whole reason Final Fantasy VII Remake is even happening. Like, what are the plot ghosts? What is their objective? Why are they in this remake? Like, why are they suddenly interfering with things? There has to be a reason for it. They're there because Sephiroth is essentially screwing with the timeline, right? They have to fix Sephiroth's existence. Yeah, they're just... Sephiroth is just fucking with you as a player. They're fucking with our characters. They're doing all this stuff on like many levels. So the plot ghosts are there they're occupied by Sephiroth. So what are they unable to do at that point? They're unable to make sure that Zack dies. They're unable to keep that. And I think the only reason we're seeing that is that relative to us, the player, that's a big moment, right? That's a big, crazy difference that we could be aware of, that, oh, this dude lived.
What if they're saving Zack because they know that's the only way they can defeat Sephiroth?
That's some level 4 shit, Cohh. We can't go that far. We can't go. That's way further. Like the actual intentions of the planet, like that's some way further shit. Like you're presuming you're presuming like the end game of end games right there.
If you compare, I'll go JP.
Well, I was just gonna say, now you've got me in this bullshit. Now fucking Nomura's parasitic dick is somehow working his way in my head. And I'm like, okay, this all makes sense, guys. Let's jump into it. Let's get into this shit. What is the significance?
I just imagined Alien when he said that.
What is the significance then of the party defeating Destiny at the end? If they're still trying to protect Zack, doesn't that mean that it's just like doesn't fucking matter anymore at all? Because Destiny's dead, so, they can make their own fate.
That's what Sephiroth wanted. They needed Cloud to defeat the chains that were holding Sephiroth back from being able to change the future. Because at the end of 7, he pretty much gets what he wants when Meteor is coming there and causing Lifestream to open. But at that point, he's already been defeated. So when he comes back at the end of Advent Children, it's in a non-complete form, but it's enough to start with the timeline, which is why he kind of starts re-embedding himself earlier. And that's, well, you know what, Max, you could probably explain this better, couldn't you?
I'm gonna try to bring JP on board right now. There's a specific line that Red 13 has at the end of the game. He has visions of Advent Children and stuff. Red 13 has a line of dialogue that hints that he sees himself 500 years in the future, like the old FF7, ending. And he says that's the bad ending. And it's been revealed by developers over the past many years, right? I think Kitase has literally said the ending of Final Fantasy VII is a world devoid of humans. So the planet doesn't like people. The planet likes the ancients, etc. You got to kind of realize that Aerith is our connection to the planet, and she is like trying her best to like make it work. And she eventually gets the planet on her side at the end of the original FF7. However, like geostigma and all this crazy Advent Children stuff, like people still end up dying like at the end of FF7 according to canon. The planet isn't really on our side. Like humans are obviously a huge blight with a very small majority that are like this. So Red 13 has a vision. Like, right? Red 13 has this vision that is essentially the original FF7 saying that's bad, right? In this situation, Sephiroth dies and you guys all die. So our characters are set on this path where they have to kill this thing because what is it? It's a creation of the planet to keep the events of the original FF7 in order. And Aerith, because Aerith is clearly aware of shit that's going on, Aerith even makes the same decision. Well, like Sephiroth is sort of inviting you to kill this ghost stuff, and then Aerith is like, "Yeah, we got to kill this ghost stuff. This is scary."
Aerith is the part where I start to get upset because like the entire game, Aerith doesn't like really let on that she knows what's happening, and then you get to the end of the bridge. Dude. Well, it's very subtle, and then you get to the end of the bridge, and she's like, "By the way, we're gonna go and fight fate. They kind of control everything. If we go through this fucking weird portal." It's on, motherfuckers. All the shit. That was just like such a weird jump.
I don't disagree with you, by the way. I don't disagree with you.
It's just weird.
I got something to add to that, but let's hear Strippin. He wants Strippin has been like trying to jump in here.
Yeah.
Have you guys read the side novels Lifestream Black and Lifestream White?
Of course not. I played a video game.
I haven't actually seen that one.
Okay. So Nojima, who is the writer of Final Fantasy VII, he wrote some short side stories that take place after Final Fantasy VII finished. And they're about Tifa and Denzel and Barrett and what they do to keep helping the planet and keep going on and all this kind of stuff.
Is this where Kyrie comes from?
There's 6
or
chapters.
Kyrie?
No. At the end of every chapter, there is a small paragraph, and they alternate. They're called Lifestream Black and Lifestream White. And they're called Lifestream Black 1, Lifestream White 2, and it goes all the way to 3. Lifestream Black is specifically a story about Sephiroth after 7. Lifestream White, they're all about Aerith. And they're super interesting. They basically, I mean, I can read them if you guys want to just go through it. But
how many? 40 pages?
The ending of the game, it's just 6 chapters. And they're pretty short, like little paragraphs. But
you go ahead. Oh, yeah.
The whole ending is about Advent Children.
Right. Yeah. Well, the whole game is about so many different things that are not, like, they're in the Final Fantasy VII world, but they're not in Final Fantasy VII.
A lot of this game has Advent Children stuff all over.
Yeah, Advent Children, Crisis Core, it's all over.
The ending is Advent Children. I'll read them to you, and you guys can like take this and apply it to the game and the end of the game, and it's gonna help you make sense of a lot of stuff.
Real quick before you do this, these were written after Final Fantasy VII, but before Advent Children?
No, I think they were written around the same time as Advent Children. I don't have the exact dates, but he wrote them as filler to get from 7 to Advent Children.
Yeah, like how we get from events from point A to point B.
But so much of it ties into Remake. And they've been translated. It was obviously like a Japanese only thing, but they've been translated. But they're super interesting. I'll read like Black 1 and White 1. Lifestream Black 1 is the man could sense the lifestream trying to erode his spirit, the memories of his former experiences, thoughts, and emotions. If he allowed himself to be taken into the current of the lifestream, the being he once was would decimate and disappear among the spirit energy. The man thought this unacceptable. The planet was to be his rule, and to become a part of that system would be nothing short of defeat. The man sensed a large flux in the lifestream, a sign of another different defeat. When the lifestream erupted onto the surface of the planet, the man thought that Cloud was no doubt certain of his victory. Cloud was the one who had twice sent the man into the lifestream. Okay, so we confirm that he did kill Sephiroth twice in 7.
Yeah.
The man knew that if one could hold onto some core of their spirit, then one could remain a separate entity, independent from the planet's system. Cloud. The man decided to make Cloud the core, and he wanted to let Cloud know of that. I'm still thinking of you, and I'll show you the proof of that as well. I'm going to go all the way through Black and then through White, so we can follow.
So this is why he's so obsessed with Cloud at the end of this game. Why he's like, I need you. Like, I need you to be there.
He essentially realizes that if he fixates himself on Cloud, he will be immortal as long as Cloud remembers him. Which is why he's constantly harassing Cloud in visions.
And that's the battle even in the original FF7. That's the whole point of Cloud and his like messed up mind prison stuff. The final battle of FF7 isn't you like journeying into the live stream. That whole weird wormhole thing is you going into Cloud's head. Is you like finally defeating Sephiroth in Cloud's head.
Yeah.
So I
So,
see
like,
exactly where you're going.
essentially, Cloud is the Horcrux of Sephiroth. As long as he is alive
Yeah.
and he remembers Sephiroth,
Pretty much.
they've established that he is immortal. But I'll keep going.
It's a Harry
When the
Potter
livestream
reference
erupted-
for people. Sorry, go ahead, Strippin.
Yeah. When the live stream erupted onto the surface of the planet, the man had already surrendered his inconsequential memories of the planet. Memories from when he was a boy, of his friends, the battles he was still unaware, and his life in bygone days. All these became a part of the inundation encased around Meteor. And finally, they receded. At the same time, the core of his spirit, and those memories deeply related to it, so his desire to destroy the world, moved from torrent to torrent and traveled from land, city to city. When the people who were trying to escape, or those left unable to do anything but stand still, were enveloped by his streams, he decided to leave them with his stigma. So Sephiroth is directly responsible for Geostigma. He did it on purpose.
Yeah.
If Cloud noticed the stigma, the man was certain he would never disappear. As long as Cloud remembers me, I can continue to exist, he said, within the life stream and on the surface. Even if my spirit disappears, even if just one fragment of a memory courses around the planet, in the end, I can count on Cloud's consciousness to bring me back to life.
And this is this thing they set up in Advent Children, like that Sephiroth is a mimetic legacy, that he's like cellular, right? He doesn't have to be like, he doesn't have to have his physical body. Us in the remake, we still have to like, his physical body is still up north in the northern crater.
Did Cloud somehow summon the Sephiroth that we get in Remake? Like, did he somehow pull him into the timeline?
Wait for it.
Shit.
It gets interesting. Despite mankind's troubles, life on planet had returned to normal. So this is after the events of Final Fantasy VII.
Sure.
The man became aware of the increase in spirits. They could be called the darkness of the heart, melding with the life stream. He cherished that lingering darkness, even more so when he considered that the stigma he had left on the surface was what created the darkness. He thought that he could possibly enjoy himself with that, filling the life stream with darkness. The man hid himself within the life of the planet and traveled around the world, branding more people with his stigma. On the surface, there were many people who no longer had their normal lives, and at the man's temptation, the dark parts of their hearts grew larger. Soon, the man thought to himself, I want Cloud to know this is my doing. I want the humans to know this is my doing, and for that, he needed a body. There were things he wanted to say in his own voice, and things he wanted to shatter by his own hand. He decided he would use his mother's power. With a fragment of mother's body, I too can get a body again, he thought. And so firstly, he tried to manifest on the surface just as a spirit, but his attempt failed. He'd already returned the memories of his own appearance to the planet, so he couldn't remember what he looked like. And he was not able to produce an image of himself. So the man found memories of a suitable appearance from the life stream, and with that formed an image. It was the form of a boy. Soon the man remembered that being on the surface was incomparably more limited than the freedom of being a spirit, so he created 2 more agents to do his work, which, as we know, are Kadaj, Boz, and Yuzu. Yes. These 3 were separate entities, and at the same time, he himself. These 3, created by the strength of the man's will and detached from the system of the planet, were both at once a part of reality and monsters out of fantasy. The man thought of the future. As my servants look for Mother, if they come across someone who knows me, then from that spirit, I can learn of who I once was. And with Mother's further assistance, I can become fully real, even if there's something lacking. It doesn't matter. Cloud will make me complete. That will just be the beginning.
Cloud is the anchor.
Cloud is his
Cloud is
anchor.
the Horcrux. He's the Horcrux, dude. Yeah. He has to exist.
Oh my lord!
Yeah.
Damn.
That's all of the paragraphs about Sephiroth. That's it.
None of like that stuff is going to be surface level. None of it. Like there's like all that stuff is going to be this subtext that they're going to sprinkle through it. It's the same way that they handle compilation of Final Fantasy VII things, because there's a lot of compilation. There's Dirge of Cerberus references, there's Crisis Core references, there's Before Crisis references, but how are they handled? Like I don't think at any point we're just going to get Genesis in the background spewing about Loveless eating an apple, like in some flashback. I don't think that's going to happen, because the way part 1 handled all these tiny nuances, like Strippin says, with all these like references and stuff, how Sephiroth is telling Cloud, yo, you're important to me. How they have like Kunsel and they talk about Genesis in this game and they do it. It's handled very well. It all depends on like the context of the situation, where it feels like obviously like, you know, darkness, this, and you know, all this kind of stuff that is very preeminent things in other games. You don't get that feeling from FF7, which is the big difference here.
I definitely do. I feel like this game is Kingdom Hearts, the extension, like full. I couldn't shake that the entire time. You fight fucking Darkseid at the end of the game with a texture
until
on
the end. Did you?
Wait,
no. The entire game up until the very end was incredible, and then it was like, oh, by the way, Kingdom Hearts.
Right, like 95% of the game was grounded.
Yeah, it was grounded totally.
You guys realize now, though, what Strippin has just essentially like I'm sorry to spoil the next
I have 3
remake.
chapters on Aerith if you want.
But no, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Go ahead, go.
Guys, Aerith isn't dying in the next one.
And that's where I'm excited. That's
Cloud
generally where I'm
has
excited.
to die. Yeah. Cloud is the only thing that has to be removed from this equation for Sephiroth to actually stop being the ultimate evil. If Sephiroth is going to be eliminated, then Cloud is either going to have to be removed from the picture somehow or completely taken out of commission. Because anywhere that Cloud exists, Sephiroth can use as that Horcrux, like Max was saying, to get back in. And what do you think Cloud is going to do if he figures that out? Or what do you think other people are going to do if they figure that out? Aerith at the end of the game straight up says, there's only one thing that's wrong here. Sephiroth is wrong. Like, he's the person that's not supposed to be here. He's the entity that's causing all this to go wrong. So if they figure out that, like, he is latched onto Cloud, and dude, for all we know, especially from what Strippin just said, there's a chance that maybe Sephiroth got to this timeline via Cloud. Maybe we're going to find out that some event that happened there was the gateway that then brought him past or what would it be? I guess in this past Advent Children Sephiroth, the One Winged Angel version.
Oh, God.
We have lots of different cues from, and how that's the actual Sephiroth that exists in this new timeline. But dude, wow, this is.
I just gotta say, it's I'm so happy talking to a group of people that are completely on board that this is Advent Children Sephiroth. Like, this is Sephiroth from the future. And just getting
There's
people
definitely
on
something
that
going
ship
on.
is difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like, so,
well, dude,
and I completely agree with you, Cohh, that this is the whole reason why there's another timeline with Zack, right? Because Cloud essentially, big spoilers, right? Cloud takes who Zack is and then adopts his persona, essentially adopts his life, and then lives his life for him. Zack, by this other timeline, technically, is going to do the same thing for Cloud. Like, really, that's like the comparison we're looking at here. Zack's going to live Cloud's life in the alternate timeline. We don't have proof, but dude, like, it makes a lot of sense that Zack's going to be the one to jump off the train. He's going to be the one to do all that stuff. He's going to lead our characters. He's going to meet Aerith. Like, right, all this shit's going to happen. But at some point, by the very end of all of it, there's going to be one character that has to remain, and most likely it's going to be like Zack or Cloud, and you might have to make a choice of that shit. Do you want to repeat history? You can choose Cloud if you want. This game sets up a lot of options, so that's like
they both have to be here
because they're
maybe
so similar.
Because
you guys
like
the 3 chapters,
like you said, like both of their paths converge at Zack's death, and then Cloud's continues to essentially the world's death. So if they were to switch that, then they could and then Cloud were to get to the end at that point, then both of them could come together and there'd be no future for either of them. That would be the end of both their stories. So they could have some epic final move together.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden take out Sephiroth. And
that's what it feels like it's setting up for.
The crossing
I agree.
of the sword.
It feels like Zack and Cloud are
like
meant to meet each other again finally, after all those of not knowing each other, and finally be friends and team up. So Strippin have, you said...
I think. Strippin.
Wait, what's up?
Are you gonna read more? Do you have more in the sacred text of Nomura?
I got a whole Aerith.
It's Nojima.
This is Nojima.
Nomura is a part of everything. I don't believe.
No, I think Nojima is as much responsible as Nomura, if not more. Honestly,
before you say this, I gotta go over, before everyone goes like the Nomura aspect. I gotta go over one big aspect of Nomura for Final Fantasy VII. Okay. He was like the battle director and the character designer of the original game, but he was heavily involved in the story. It was Nomura's idea in the original FF7 to kill Aerith. Nojima and Kitase, who was the writer and the director of the original game, wanted to kill every person in the party except a chosen 3. So that the final party of 3 that would go fight Sephiroth, he wanted to kill everyone during the revisit to Midgar. If people would parachute in, Yuffie would get blown up. Like, that was literally how they were going to do it.
Up.
That'd be great.
And Nomura in an interview recently had to this was like within the last year. In an interview, Nomura's like, I wanted to kill Aerith, but you wanted to kill everyone. And I think Kitase was like, what are you talking about? No, we didn't. He's like, yeah, you did. Everyone was going to die on the return to Midgar except 3. And then Kitase was like, oh, yeah, you're right. We were going to do that. I forgot about that.
The original George
dude, I was doing a lot of drugs back then.
Nomura saved FF7 original. Like, no joke. I have to give the dude credit where credit's due.
Sure. Strippin, should we read more from the sacred text?
But really...
Oh, I think Max is lagging a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Go back 10 seconds.
Nomura did a lot for FF7 original.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. He definitely had his hands all over it for sure.
He also designed Tifa, so he's just a king.
There you go. All
right, I'm going to read.
Okay, go ahead, read.
Okay. This is Livestream White, 3 chapters. Okay. The woman was an ancient, which explained how she was able to maintain her individuality even within the livestream. If she so wished, she could become part of the livestream at any time, but she thought it was too early for that just yet. The woman had sensed a different presence within the livestream cycling around the planet. It was the vehemence of a strong will, one that would never join with the planet. She knew this consciousness. It was the man who had taken her life. A merciless spirit hidden behind a wall. That spirit was now operating from within the livestream. The woman sensed that he was planning to exert his influence to the surface of the planet. She wondered what she could do. Because it would be dangerous for her to come into contact with him, the woman tried to keep away from the man's consciousness. Because of this, she could not learn much of the man's plot. And I'll touch on this because everyone's like, Aerith knew what was going on. And I'm like, she knew something was going on, but she didn't know shit. Okay? However, just once when the man's spirit had suddenly appeared near her, she discovered that he had made his memories of Cloud the core of his being. Cloud was her friend, her beloved, a symbol of what was important to her and someone she protected. The woman discovered that there was a growing number of spirits within the livestream who refused to be absorbed by it. While they were different from the man's spirit, they rejected the livestream due to the same emotion, hatred. Their feelings towards the planet were steeped in hatred, just like that man's. This is the result of his influence reaching the surface, she thought, which was a stigma. The woman drew closer to the souls that had just entered the livestream and tried to heal them. Beneath the surface of enmity were hidden memories from their lives as normal people. While unremarkable, they had many joyous memories, and she released those thoughts and dissolved them into the livestream. Having lost the core of their emotions, the surface animosity disappeared. The woman had found a solution. However, more and more spirits steeped in spite kept appearing, and it was too much for her to bear. She rushed through the livestream in search of other souls to help her, other ancients on the verge of diffusing. These fragments of consciousness accepted her undertaking. When she found fragments of consciousness of people she had once known, pitifully few in number, she infused them with her own memories and sought their assistance. She had more spirits on her side, and even so, the hatred borne by that man did not decrease. She then thought of Cloud living his reality on the surface. In order to reduce the hatred lingering in the livestream, she would have to remove the hatred flooding in the real world. The woman wondered if Cloud could help her, however, that might lead to Cloud getting hurt as well. The Cloud she knew had a very fragile heart. The woman considered ways of telling Cloud about the crisis, and she thought all the feelings she couldn't tell him about came back to her vividly. There were many things she wanted to tell Cloud, however, she did not know what she should tell him or how to tell him. It had been a while since she had worried. In the end, the woman decided she would see Cloud first and then think about what to do. Eventually, the woman discovered that the man spreading hatred around the world was trying to manifest himself on the surface. She wondered how he was planning to do this. Summoning up all her courage, she approached the man's spirit. However, he spotted her and chased her off. She knew the man was laughing at her. You can't do anything. However, she had caught what he was planning. He was apparently going to use separate entities to be his agents. The woman asked herself if she could do the same. However, she soon changed her mind. Even if it were possible, I would want to meet Cloud the way he knows me. So she kind of confirms that she could come back too if she wanted to. But it's
and unethical. Children is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? This reminds me of Ghostbusters 2 so much, where it's like the ghosts use like hatred to like manifest themselves in Ghostbusters 2. And everyone just has to like be in better spirits to actually fight what's going on, and that hatred is manifested through a virus in Advent Children. Like the whole point is that forms in the form of geostigma.
Geostigma, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so for me personally, like these two people are the people, or at least influence the people in 7 Remake, right?
Oh yeah.
If you assess the Harbinger at the end, something they mention is. They are connected to all the threads of time and space that shape the planet's fate. So, if these spirits are connected to time and space, it's entirely possible for Sephiroth's lingering spirit and Aerith's lingering spirit that are not in the live stream to somehow influence their past selves.
So wait a second. Aerith, as she's growing up, her mother comments that she hears voices and talks to spirits. Are those the other spirits in the live stream that may have been interacting with Sephiroth or maybe even warning her?
Oh, yeah.
I think that, yeah, to a degree, like, yes, potentially.
Because, okay. Now, I wonder if there's any dilation. I wonder if they could have sensed what Sephiroth was doing or somehow had knowledge about his transference back into the Remake timeline. Like I wonder if there was any type of knowledge transference about the current state of events in Remake, and not just because one thing that's always interested me, and this is real quick, actually, let's put a quick pause on this before we continue, because I really want to hear that thing earlier we were talking about with JP. What is your issue with plot ghosts? Like what? I haven't heard this at all.
That it's just a large, like,
It's a terrible name.
I'm on two paths. I'm on path. I've already played Kingdom Hearts, so I just wanted a normal story from this.
They feel
right?
too similar to some
like,
other stuff.
I just wanted a normal fucking Final Fantasy, right? But I've also played Kingdom Hearts, so I'm interested in like the nonsense that this can spew into, right? So that's why I'm here, effectively, because I want to hear everything that you guys are saying.
I'm going to chime in really quick about plot ghosts and the way they're handled in this game. Plot ghosts are annoying, right? They stop you from getting materia. They stop the players from progressing. They stop you from feeling the moments that you want to feel about the original Final Fantasy VII. It's almost like they're designed to be annoying. Usually,
I agree, 100%,
in a bit of other, like, fictions from Final Fantasy, usually big things like this that interlude are held with reverence, right? They're held that they're these super important mythical creatures or something like that. But even Aerith is freaked out by them. Barrett calls them bullshit. Like, there are several points where this game handles the annoying things, like Roach, who is specifically supposed to be like a hyper Final Fantasy character, but he's annoying. He's insane, right? Like, why is this guy so weird? Like, the game specifically addresses that. That's the big tone shift from this game and a lot of other Final Fantasies, is that this game sympathizes with the player. This shit is annoying. Everyone in the game is going to comment on how annoying and how weird it is that these guys get out of the way, you pieces of shit. Like, nobody likes them, including the player. And that's so much different than what Square normally handles story-wise.
But they also, on the other side, they do also help the player sometimes. They also help the characters sometimes. But it's to fulfill their own need. But it's still like the player can look at that and, not necessarily hate them outright.
What?
Sure.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense, especially with your reasoning why you would hate the plot ghost stuff. Okay, so moving on to the next thing I kind of wanted to touch on, because I'm very interested in hearing y'all's opinions on this, especially Strippin and Max. First of all, I want to thank Max, because you linked a video that I watched that was one of the most eye-opening videos that I'd ever seen, and that was that commentary from, I want to say,
the
it was
music
Portuguese,
notes, all that
music.
stuff.
Oh my God, I've never had my mind blown at 7:30 in the morning harder than after watching that video. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But kind of tying into that, and something that actually mentions that video, where he says like this one line that kind of stuck with me a little bit. And by the way, I don't know if we have a link to that video, but we should definitely link that to chat, because the video is incredible.
I've not seen that.
This made so many
I've not seen a lot of stuff together.
Is that on your Twitter?
One thing I really want to know.
Okay, I'll find it. Go ahead, sorry.
One thing I really want to know y'all's opinions on is twofold. One, what creates the flashbacks that we continually see through Remake? Because as we know, those flashbacks obviously were not there in the original.
Flash forwards.
So something in Remake on them. Yeah, the flash forwards. Yeah, I'm sorry, flash forwards. And not flashbacks, are they? So originally I thought maybe they were proximity to Sephiroth, or maybe Sephiroth was purposefully implanting them, or maybe they were inspiring them. And then second of all, and here's where it gets weird, and this comes from a line from that video, these are not only flash forwards, these are flash understandings. Because at one point we see Cloud get glimpses of that iconic future scene, and you see a tear go down his cheek, which indicates a fundamental emotional and mental understanding of what he witnessed. And then, like a flash, he's just back to normal. But it's like, what? Okay, A, why are those happening? And B, what would their purpose be?
The music in that moment is also really important too. Once again, there's spoiler music throughout this game all over the place. The music is the theme at the end of the original FF7. So Cloud's essentially experiencing the emotions for a brief moment of the end of Final Fantasy VII, where you can sort of sense that Aerith saved everybody. So I by the way that shit is handled, right? If there's one thing that they're changing stuff in the remake, and this is one big change, that Cloud doesn't get flashbacks to remembering stuff from his past. He's getting premonitions of the future, and it's handled so well. It's some of my favorite moments in the game, where he doesn't know what's going on and he has no perspective, but you as the player are the ones that like are aware and have perspective. I think it's one of two outcomes. It's like the Mako in his blood, right? His connection to the planet in some way, feeding him direct information of the future to like, you need to know that this happened, right? That this stuff is going to happen, but he has no context yet, so it doesn't make any sense. By the end of the game, it makes a lot of sense, because you're killing the future, and it's giving you visions.
Or you're unshackling the chain.
Yeah,
exactly. or it's Sephiroth just messing with him. Like, it's going to be one or the other. And I don't know what it is. We don't know yet.
So see, here's where it gets interesting though. So, and this is one of the things that I've been wrestling with. So let's assume that the theory that the Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII Remake is post-Advent Children. So he has recombined. He has entered God status, which would also explain, by the way, why Sephiroth has these crazy powers in Remake. Like, sure, he was super weird in original, but he couldn't just appear and warp out of nowhere and he does he does all sorts of weird anime bullshit in Remake. And that makes a lot more sense if we assume that, this is like the god Sephiroth from Advent Children. Now he can traverse time and space and possibly dimensions. And okay, so that being said, the possibility that actor, let's call Sephiroth the Machinator, the actor, he would be the only one in this timeline that would have the information of this future timeline, unless we were to assume that the Earth itself did. So that being said, he is the one supplying those directly into these different characters. What significance is the timing with those, considering that almost none of them directly impact the scenes they're tied to?
Go over that one more time. You lost me like halfway through. Like,
so Sephiroth, when Sephiroth comes back to the beginning of Remake, he pulls with him all the knowledge of his past or Cloud's future, which are the same in this game. He knows what's going to happen. He knows that he's going to fail. He knows that Advent Children is going to happen. He knows that he's going to. He has entered God status because he is essentially come back to Remake. So in that case, exactly. So when he injects these flashes of the future into the characters, what would be the motivation of him to do that? Considering that almost at no point when he does that to the characters does it influence the scene or action they're currently in at that point in Remake.
So it's like, why isn't he? If he has this power, why isn't he going to these other lengths? Right? Why is he just affecting the timeline?
What would be his motivation? Like, it's such an interesting
Okay,
thing.
are you ready?
Okay,
Strippin's got
ready?
Blow my mind, Strippin. Let's hear it.
Sephiroth is fucking with everyone. All the visions that you experience are ones that you would want to avert. He is feeding them to Cloud.
To try to have them fulfill them.
He is guiding the party.
He's trying to manipulate Cloud.
Yeah.
The whispers that appear are trying to stop Sephiroth. They're always trying to stop Sephiroth. And we make this mistake the whole game, that they're like trying to guide us on a path. They're just trying to stop Sephiroth.
They're just trying to stop Sephiroth, yeah.
And he's using us to change plot for him, okay?
So he is making Cloud become his tool.
And guess what? That's exactly what he does in the original FF7.
It is.
Exactly what he does.
That's so cool.
Okay?
Yeah.
Same shit.
I love it.
The whispers at the end of the game are the forms of Kodaj, Loz, and Yuzu. They are not Tifa, Barrett, and Cloud like people think they are. They are the three remnants, right?
Yeah.
The Whisper Harbinger, there's only one thing in the game called Harbinger. It's Heaven's Dark Harbinger. Okay, the Whisper is Jenova. Okay, if you assess the Whisper, it says an accretion of whispers, the so-called arbors of fate. These creatures appear when someone tries to alter destiny's course. They're connected to all the threads of time and space. Now, an accretion is a coming together of matter under the influence of gravitation to form larger bodies, right? The Jenova Reunion Project.
Yeah.
So the reason that this future Jenova Whisper is so big is because the Reunion Project succeeded, okay? And then you've got these three remnants of Sephiroth trying to protect their timeline, which is Advent Children.
And I agree with Strippin completely, yeah.
Yeah. Sephiroth has played us all game, and Aerith, he's played everyone into, like, changing his destiny. And that's why when you mentioned that scene at the end and it looked like the scene where Zack gets shot, I think that is Sephiroth stabbing us in the back because he got exactly what he wanted. We didn't change our future, we changed his. And we don't know it. We don't realize what we've done.
It's the whole reason why Sephiroth is like literally inviting Cloud. Like, I'm gonna Virgil cut this hole in time, and he's like, hey, come on, get in here. And then Aerith essentially is like, no, we all need to go in there, right? We all have to do this. The whole point is, by the time you get in, you realize that Sephiroth has already fucked everything up, right? You're at this place where time doesn't really matter anymore. But by the time you're in there, it just seems like, oh, we're fighting weird Kingdom Hearts things, which you're literally fighting as manifestations of Jenova and Sephiroth. Like,
that's why the three guys summoned Bahamut, because in Advent Children, the remnants summoned Bahamut. It was literally...
JP, how familiar are you with Advent Children?
I watched it long ago, but I have not watched it since.
You remember the 3 stupid kid dickheads that are like, "Don't cry" and all this dumb stuff, right? Like,
loosely,
yeah. We can argue forever that movie is not great, right? That there's issues with Advent Children.
The Tifa fight was great. I like Tifa fight.
Right. Well, fight scenes are good, but the storytelling and the characters are just. I love FF7 and I can't defend it. Like I just,
it's a bad movie.
The only way you can watch it is to watch like the 2-hour plus version, and it kind of makes sense, but barely. So all we can pull from it is actually some of the critical story elements that Sephiroth lives like cellular. He's a mimetic legacy. He has these 3 forms of himself that aren't him, that want to be him and need to get Jenova to become Sephiroth. That's why we see a cool fight scene.
Right.
The whole gimmick is that by the end of the game, when you go into that goofy portal, you're presented with these 3 dudes, and everyone, because of an IGN video, thinks that it's future representations of Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett because there's guns, fists, and sword.
The weapons.
Yeah. But if you just look at what they do, they don't use the weapons in the same way. The weapons and how they're used is exactly like the Advent Children. The what's it called? The elements, like the fire, lightning, is the same elements as those characters. They essentially have similar moves, and then they make Bahamut. So it's like, okay, it's pretty clear that by the time you get in here, Sephiroth is in complete, or Jenova is in complete control of the Whispers, right? Sephiroth's influence has gone so far that at some point in the future, all this shit is under their control. Like this giant harbinger thing is by in turn Jenova / Sephiroth. Like it's what it is way in the future, and it's just permeating throughout the whole planet. It's a virus. So if you're on board with that, it's like Sephiroth's inviting you to kill all that. He's inviting you to destroy this thing that you think you're like, oh, sick, yeah, like just like Strippin said, oh, sick. We're gonna shed destiny. We're gonna get away from this thing. Aerith is freaked out by it. Aerith's freaked out because she's essentially getting visions from the planet of where this is going, and she knows it's going to lead to no humans. She knows the planet's going to lead to Sephiroth being gone, but still living in some way. And then she thinks the only way that we're going to get around this is by killing it. So you do. It feels like a good decision, but underneath, dude, just like Strippin says, I think that's exactly Sephiroth's plan. He's manipulating just like the original game.
Every time we carve a limb, he feeds you another vision to make you keep going. Kill it, keep killing it. You're averting all these crises. You're doing all these things. And so you do, right? And it's like, even what I read about Aerith, when I said Aerith can, like, she would find her allies and she would share a piece of her memory. You see that in this game, right? When she touches Marlene, when she touches Red 13, and they see something and they're immediately on her side. And it's that same situation. It is definitely the same Aerith, or that same Aerith is influencing the original Aerith. And I think it's the exact same for Sephiroth. When you defeat Sephiroth in Advent Children, he's covered in black feathers. The last thing he does is he wraps himself in a wing of black feathers and disappears in feathers. And they're present throughout the whole game. You're constantly seeing these black feathers. That's the only time feathers are involved, is Advent Children.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's been telling you since the start. Strippin, I just made an observation. As soon as you defeat Sephiroth, right, and the Edge of Creation, and then you get teleported to this crazy, like, very, like, red universe, light white universe, like, very contrasty sort of thing. Cloud starts getting, presumably not a flashback, because those aren't really critical. That's about Cloud's memories. He presumably gets a flash forward. Sephiroth grabs his hand and says something along the lines of, no, not yet. Whatever, like, the future is yet unwritten. Like he's essentially preventing you from having visions of where this is going, like new visions instead of ones of the old one. He's directly fucking with you.
Well, no, that also implies that he's not the one giving them.
No. It implies that he's controlling him because he stops them.
But he stops them. But if he has to stop it, he wouldn't have been the one that started.
No, it's because Cloud started having control of it. I think is what they're. Is that what you two are saying? Because Code does.
No. Like, point, I guess. So right at the end, right after you defeat Sephiroth, and Cloud's sitting there, he sees him again, and he starts freaking out on the Edge of Creation. This is where we're in space. We're in space. Before they even exchange dialogue.
Yeah.
You've been feeding all this stuff of the future, like Advent Children futures, original FF7 futures, and then suddenly Cloud has another premonition, potentially of a new future. Because what did you just do? You blew up the bitch. Right? It's dead. So whatever visions of the future Cloud's going to have are technically not written in stone. Sephiroth doesn't want you to have that yet because he's like, what's the damn line of dialogue? It's something along the lines of
I can bring
whatever the future is not meant to be. He says something very direct that he doesn't want you to feel that.
That's unwritten, I think he says.
It's unwritten, yeah. Like I think the planet is giving Cloud these visions.
Maybe that was a subtle nod from the devs. We haven't come up with this yet.
That's
so.
I honestly think some of that is true because we're talking about all this, and this is maybe a discussion for the later half of the show. But with all this said, does part 2 just happen and like it continues down the Final Fantasy VII path of like,
oh yeah,
we're gonna go down to the next city and then we're gonna go to the fucking Red 13 Cosmo Canyon?
Well,
and like,
I think so.
I would have
honestly,
to, right?
It's interesting because me and Sam actually talked about this a little bit after the game happened on Twitter, but it's kind of like what would be great. I think I speak for a lot of Final Fantasy VII fans when I say my first giant fear after finishing Remake was, holy shit, there's a chance that I'm not going to experience everything I loved about the original in the remake engine.
I felt the same thing.
Like, oh my God, am I not going to see the Golden Saucer? Am I not going to meet Vincent? Like, holy shit.
Of course you are.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
I know.
So what I'm thinking from the sounds of it is that the rest, I mean, the game ended pretty iconically, right on the plane, that same kind of scene.
Yeah.
Now things are definitely different, but the ghosts are defeated. So in this case, I kind of think that's some symbology of the devs saying like, look, through Remake, you have broken the chains of what we are allowed to do. You will still get your scenes, you will still have your characters, but we just gave ourselves the freedom to have a little bit more fun with this. And most importantly, this is where it gets interesting because now anything's going to be a surprise for us.
Right.
Because we have been given the expectation
how
of the
happen are now
unexpected. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
how they happen is going to be different.
Exactly. So maybe this time Aerith is going to realize that she needs to stay alive. Cloud is going to realize that Sephiroth is tied to him and that he's going to die because we now have the post-Advent Children Sephiroth who has significantly more knowledge about how things works. If he imparts that knowledge onto Cloud, there's no question that's going to change his decision-making, and entire large events towards the end may differ entirely. They may give the players the choice on this. Yeah. Maybe that was the whole point about this. Maybe they're saying, you're going to start choosing the story now. You're going to start deciding how this stuff ends up. All the major pieces are going to be there, and all the major acts are going to have their major conclusions and scenes, but maybe now you are going to decide more of that because now it is more unwritten with the undoing of the fate ghosts.
Yeah. Max?
Yeah, I completely agree how it seems like they're already setting up, like then they set up a lot of shit, right? They set up a whole bunch in this game where Cloud is having like visions, he can see the future. He's doing things that don't make sense to the original FF7 timeline. So just imagine him going forward into the next game, him having visions of killing Aerith. Because that happens in the original 7. He tries to kill Aerith at the Temple of the Ancients practically, or he beats her up, it seems. And then at the very before she eventually dies, you as the player have to fight back, right? So it makes sense if like he's going to be having these visions throughout the game, and the game's going to be teasing you with that. You're going to think that, oh God. And this is what I love about it, right? I love that this game has instilled to the player and into this story that you could save her, right?
That was the first thing I hooked onto, as well as like, 2 hours in, it's like, wait a minute, what if Aerith doesn't? What if she lives? And I got excited. Like that's why I'm on board with this bullshit, right?
Right. As someone that loves storytelling, I am eating this shit up because they have the ending of this game has set up into so many people's hearts and minds that finally, after all these years, this is going to happen. We're going to be able to save her.
It won't be a mod anymore.
I guarantee you,
it won't be a Game Shark code.
I guarantee you they're going to be doing that throughout the entirety of the next game. They're going to be setting up all this stuff of how you could save her.
But
so that when they
it would be a great dick move if they're just like, but she's dead anyways. Fuck you guys. Like absolutely. That would be, and it would make it impactful again.
Absolutely.
Here's where it's really
That's
crazy.
where I think they're going.
Yeah.
They spent the entire remake basically via gameplay mechanics, via storytelling, saying we have this world has more control of its fate than it ever has. Like we do not have to follow the same path. We have defeated literal manifestations of what fate is. Like we have the power to change this. If the entire second game were to just be like, but it's all the same anyway. Like that would be one of the biggest. Like, that would be hilarious.
The interesting thing is that we're like the hardcore, right? We're the people that dived into this shit head first. For the casual player, they'll get none of this just from playing the game, especially if they haven't played the other games. And so they have to somehow make it work for both parties.
I had a good observation about this like a few days ago of like, who the hell, if you have no idea what FF7 is or have played it or know Crisis Core, who the hell is this dude that looks like Cloud with black hair? What is going on?
Yeah.
Do you remember ever feeling that way? In the original 7, when you see the picture, who the hell is this guy who has
Cloud
black
wannabe.
hair? He's the Cloud wannabe guy. What's going on?
Yeah.
So my issue with this is that I don't agree with the way the game dump trucks you with all this stuff in the end. I don't agree because what happens at the end of this game, unlike the old one, we're going to have like 3 years, dude. 3 years to answer these questions. In the original FF7, when you get the picture and you're like confused, who is this guy? What's going on? Your emotions are compromised in the next 3 hours because you sort of learn, right? You go through Cloud's mind prison and you're essentially answered. 3 hours in the old game, 3 years with this one. But I get what they're doing. They want you to ask these questions. They want you to be like curious. That's why I kind of call Zach like the Nick Fury. It's more like a tease of what's happening in the future and what's going on. With context, it's like crazy, right? But at the same time, I don't think it devalues the experience if you haven't seen the original. It's confusing, absolutely. And I don't agree with the way it's handled, but I don't think it ruins part 1. It just sets up with like, where's that going? Yeah. We even have those questions now, you know?
And it makes people go and find out those answers. I mean, I think that was the most present when the tower is falling and they're like, here's a cat that looks really fucking weird for a split second, and then zero mention apart from like one little lines earlier in the game. Yeah. Like
it's
for people that never played it before, they're like, who?
Yeah.
Did you see? What was that?
The hell was that?
I had a few community members that had never played the original, and I'll never forget when I finished the game when I just get a whisper from someone. So who was the cat?
Yes, they do a lot of that.
I was like, "What are you talking about?" Oh, they never went back to it.
Well,
they never like there was that
and it's so random. You're in this huge like
oh my god
amazing moment of this tower falling, super emotionally invested. Boom, cat, 2 seconds, and get out of and now we're back to like, oh my god, all these people just died. Like, is that guy alive?
Next game, when we're getting flashbacks about Biggs and them surviving, just like somebody said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him like swoop in and start saving people or do some magic. Like, I bet you there's that scene specifically there as a bookmark that will be revisited later. It's like, oh, remember this scene? Remember when we flashed that little cat? Well, here's everything that happened. And then there's going to be like a 12-minute thing from there.
Isn't there lines in the original Final Fantasy VII where Kate saved or lost someone in the tower, right? Like he lost his...
Well, it's Reeve.
It's Reeve.
It's Reeve.
Okay. It's a remote control.
It's Reeve. Most likely controlling it in this game in a VR helmet, like Shadow made or some shit like that.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Yeah, that's all you got. Like, and Reeve already has like a ton of great character development, but that reveal is like one of the big reveals of what Kate Sith is later on. That you're essentially got a Shinra man on the inside.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Can we talk about character development, dude? Because when I played the original Final Fantasy VII, the only downside I had was that I couldn't really fall in love with a lot of the characters. And in this game, they are fucking all incredible.
Was really well done. Yeah.
Aerith to me was like a kind of a bland plot device, and now she's amazing.
I think it says something that like Cloud might be the most uninteresting character out of everyone in this in the remake.
No shit, yeah.
Like everyone else is so much more fun. Yeah, he's blank slatey. Yeah, I agree. I think like the dialogue and everything was so well done as well. But go ahead.
It works well because everyone else has this like stark comparison. Like Barrett is this like aspiring, like sort of knowledgeable guy that is extreme in many ways, and Tifa is the exact opposite of that. She like, she cares about everyone. Dude, can I just say like the themes in this game, like the theme of the original FF7 is about like life, right? Like it's about life and in turn death. That's the theme of the whole game.
Yeah.
But I really feel like the theme of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 is that the world isn't black and white. And our characters have this description throughout the whole thing that just because Shinra is the bad guy, not all of Shinra is the bad guy. They do create jobs. A lot of people's lives have gotten better from this. It's the question of like, do we have a bigger motive behind all of our actions? And they explore that all the time. There's literally a piece of dialogue where Barrett is screaming about Shinra and Cloud says, "What's it like living in that black and white world of yours?" And Barrett responds with, "It's great. There's room for one more."
Yeah.
He's like, "If you want to join," and Cloud's like, "I'll think about it." And they do that so much throughout this game. Like you get to see all the people that work in Shinra going through absolute hell trying to help people out. while the guys at the top are comically bad, right? They're like the executives of Shinra, outside of one dude, is so comically evil, and they make all the people that are below them grounded, normal people. I love it about this game, how they explore the moral gray area of FF7 and Shinra.
Yeah.
The elevator ride at the building was also really good about that too.
Oh yeah,
pretty incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. What were we saying about Tifa?
I was going to say, like, Tifa is like in the extremist group, but not willing to do what they do, and that already is just like
it was
so much development. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She was not against it, but she was just like not a part of it. Essentially,
she was like, there must be a better way without killing innocent people. She's so committed to that, and Barrett's so committed to his agency and getting it done, no matter what the cost.
I want to go back. I took the stairs because I'm a true fan. What happens in the elevators? What happens? You just referenced the elevators, and I thought, the elevators, but I don't know what happens.
I did the elevator. And then I went back and took the stairs. The stairs is definitely funnier. What's really cool about the elevator, the first couple floors, you just get stopped and there's some fights.
Okay.
But then the third stop, I think, the door opens and all of a sudden, they start fighting, and it's just a woman, and she's just standing there, and they're all just kind of staring at each other for a minute, and then the door closes and they keep going, and then the next floor, the doors open. And the three main characters are just chilling in the back. And this guy just gets in on his cell phone. And it's a dude, I think, talking to his mom. And he's like, yeah, I'm scared too. And there's this like real conversation this dude is having. And they ride up another floor. And he gets out and he's like, yeah, I miss you too. And he just kind of walks off. And they're just like,
this good character
really easy to forget that sometimes Shinra is not full of like, just like Max was saying, they're all just kind of like, yeah, sometimes Shinra is just people trying to get by. And that's another face of Shinra. So it really kind of humanizes the whole darker element of the kind of global evil that is represented by the Mako kind of dissemination of Shinra. So it's really cool, man. They do a really good job about that.
And the scene with Jesse's parents who live in the Shinra housing.
Yeah.
It's just like a tragic tale about a dad, but they like, they
drop that plate, dude. Yeah. They drop Jesse's family's plate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, motherfuckers, dude.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
They definitely put some heartstrings
pizza,
there. Like, pull some heartstrings on all of that for sure.
And so someone in the chat just mentioned it, how they handle Jessie in this game, how she feels that she's essentially responsible for the tragedy when as the player that it's not. Jessie dies believing that she's the one that caused all of this, and she takes it with her all the way to like the end. Yeah. And that is just used as like an extra level of Jessie's like, emotional responsibility to just tug your ass all the way until, she's gone.
Yeah.
It's so good, dude.
And I think because of that, it makes me more excited for all the stuff that we expect to happen later on in Final Fantasy VII, because if they did this job or this good of a job with the smaller stuff in this, what are they going to do with the bigger stuff? The bigger moments.
That's really interesting,
right? Like, how are they going to make that stuff more
emotional?
There's
a lot of hugely iconic moments that are coming up in the future of this franchise, and it's going to be so interesting to see how they like set pieces that were mind blowing back then. I mean, I'll be blunt. I played the original a long time ago, and Biggs, Jessie, those characters, those were always side characters to me. Like they were very small parts of that game. In fact, when I was playing through Remake, I didn't even remember who lived and died. Like, I just didn't remember at all. But now playing Remake, well, I didn't even remember that. And then playing through Remake, you get such a more visceral connection to these people. They go from like side elements to friends in the game, like actual characters that have all their own unique personalities. And Charlie Sheen is amazing in there as Biggs, and it's the whole thing is just phenomenal. And the impact that they grew between original and Remake. It's so interesting to see what they're going to do with other characters like that moving forward, and seeing how much they're going to grow them out and who they aren't going to grow out. The decision they're going to make, and like who's an important character, who's going to get the limelight that we're seeing in Remake, and who's going to just stay that side character. So, man, it's wow. It gets every time I think about this, I get super excited for the the just seeing the trailers for the next one are going to be mind blowing.
Well, it's going to be interesting where they go with it, right? Like,
oh God,
I don't even know what those look like.
I do completely agree with Strippin. Like, I think if we could handle like dialogue and characters and like other Square games from this point forward by like similar people, that'd be great. You know, like it's like a big part of Final Fantasy as like an identity. Kingdom Hearts, like they have their identities, right? And they feel like they are the way they are, so they keep portraying those games as such. Even Final Fantasy 15 to an extent, but it feels like 7's a jumping point. The characters act real. Like it's honestly one of the reasons why Resident Evil, from this point forward, after Resident Evil 7, characters curse like crazy, right? They have all these like very aggressive like language, and I feel the only reason that's happening in this game too is to try to humanize the characters a bit, right? They're trying to make them sound more like real people in many ways. Like, let's dance, asshole. Yeah. Like all this like super fun
like
stuff.
Like action movie one-liners instead of just video game dialogue. Yeah.
Exactly. And the crazy part is that I do agree with you, JP. At the end, it becomes video game dialogue. It's like completely different, but I think it's like intentional because there is stuff that leads up to the end, but damn, did that dump truck rolls in at chapter 18 and it just goes poof.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, what? And then it drops everything on you. You're like, oh, what's going on? And then he drives away. You're like, what? Huh? Yeah. Like, what's happening? And they have to let you deduce things.
I think, Strippin, I the biggest fear, and I said this as soon as I finished, the biggest fear I have rather, is that they go too far and it becomes Kingdom Hearts 3. Where they have to like tie in all this bullshit that they made themselves just so they don't like get called for forgetting or just like what if we never see what's the fucking bike guy? We saw him once and I really liked the scene. He was a little bit annoying, but I liked the scene. We never saw him again. What if he just never shows up again because they have so much left to do in the game?
Why would he leave Midgard?
Yeah, right? Unless it's the Fallout Cloud because he saw like this adversary that he wants to constantly keep fighting and they go that path. But like It's the fear of what already happened to another franchise happening to this franchise is exactly what I have. Because the same people are involved for somewhat a part, not everyone, but yeah.
I know you understand this better than most because you are a very big fan of Kingdom Hearts, and I think we're already seeing it, like with the fact that I just give you guys all these ending stuff, and this was like end chapters of a side novel that just shed a bunch of light on this game.
Yeah.
Like you can see Nomura's influence in having to explore every element of the Final Fantasy VII. And thankfully, they made a game good enough that people want to do that. I've got multiple friends that didn't play the original. And after beating this game, they were like, the ending confused me. But now I'm going to go play original Final Fantasy VII so I can understand it better. And they all went, like, it was like 3 or 4 of them. They all went and played it. One of them's already on Crisis Core because she loved Final Fantasy VII so much. And she just fell in love with the world. Maybe that was their intention.
Possibly, yeah. From a marketing perspective,
it's really hard to break it all down unless you go through everything.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a big difference between like the Kingdom Hearts fear, right? Because like the worry that we're going to go down this rabbit hole, right? And you're going to fall at the rabbit hole and there's going to be a canyon. You're going to be like a canyon and you're like, oh no!
Yeah.
Like, I think Square has like burned a lot of people over the past like long time with a lot of their games. Like then the Final Fantasies and what happened to Final Fantasy 15. Like I love Final Fantasy 15 Royale, right? But when that came out, I was like, you know what? This none of this makes any sense. They said they're going to patch it. I'm going to wait. And I waited a year. And I actually liked the game quite a bit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like a lot of their other projects, they come out so like, wait, where are we going? What's happening? Like why doesn't this make any sense? And that's why this game comes across as kind of a breath of fresh air because 95% of the game is cohesive. The characters make sense. The characters feel real. The mechanics and like the world all have that Square Enix / Squaresoft feel that it all looks good and it sounds good and it feels good. This is weird, right? This is weird. And then suddenly you get, boom, that dump truck shows up. My only thing I have to like remind some friends that are so jarred by this ending, which I don't agree with. I think the ending is the thing that sort of bugs a lot of people at the end of this game of a worry of where they're going.
Yeah.
Why would they take the 95% element that works so good and just not do it in the next one? You know?
Yeah.
People are like worried that we're just...
Yeah.
You're like, right. I don't even think they're going to do more of it. I still think there's going to be 5 to 10% that's going to be new, wacky, sort of crazy shit. Like sort of the way the end of this game sets up. However, if they set it up in a way that's not like the dump truck, you know, if they set it up in a way that makes more sense and drip it out to us instead of, well, boof, then that's going to be way better. We just don't know how things are going to happen.
The game ended, and I said this exact statement. I'll say it and kind of double down. Like, this game made me appreciate simple storytelling with good stories in video games. Like, I look back at God of War, and I'm like, wow, they told it's actually so unbelievably well done what they did with that game in comparison to this. And if they can somehow like tell that batshit crazy stuff, exactly what you just said, Max, and like a drip feed that is easy to understand and not necessarily easy to understand, but not just like a giant swath of like, here's every fucking thing in the last 5 hours of the game. If they can somehow do that over the course of the game and make it coherent and make it not have to fucking read a book after a movie that was written to like make sense of it all, that'd be amazing. Right.
But at the same time, it feels like intentional because we're having this conversation. They want to give you something to do in the next 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Also, they want you to play the next one, so they can't give you a resolution. They have to make it like a little bit convoluted. They have to make you be like, what the fuck? Now I got to play the next one. So
well,
I get it. But also, I do agree with you. Like,
okay. The 95% that was there, from the original was incredible. It was amazing. It was more developed in some cases. There were relationships that weren't even there. But now it's like, not only do we have all of that, but we've got this entirely new element of the unknown. So it's almost like they're getting the best of both worlds. You've got the kind of this unsaid promise where it's like, look, we can deliver the original in a really entertaining and amazing way. But not only are you probably going to get more of that, but now there's this entirely second element of it's like, but we might do something crazy too, and you have no idea what it is.
Yeah,
and now Sephiroth maybe post-advent children, and it's like you have no clue what that means. You have no fucking idea. We don't even have any fucking idea. But it's going to be awesome, and you're probably going to like it. So as long as they can keep that somewhat cogent and not just go too off the rails with it, like one thing that this is going to kind of force them to do is they're going to have to revisit some Advent Children stuff moving forward, especially with the feather drops and everything like that. I mean, that is completely connected to Advent Children.
Yeah.
So we're now going to get probably a lot more connective material to that. We're probably going to get some type of insight on how he was able to pull back this time, why it was this time in particular, why wasn't it earlier? Maybe he actually went back in Zach's time first, and maybe that whole thing around the place with Zach, maybe that was an entirely different part of the story we haven't been told yet. And maybe he influenced those events specifically to lead up to where they are now, or to create some alternate timeline to have them, so this opens the door to not only for them being able to, profit off of the original remake, but now they can
cinematic universe, right?
In different directions. Yeah, they're basically making a new universe out of an old universe, and a universe, more importantly, that they're not constrained with. Like they can go so many directions with this.
The worry is how they handle it. Like the worry is like,
the worry is like,
are we
explain
going
everything?
Hearts?
If they explain everything to like the minute detail, then I'm gonna fucking hate it. Like if they explain the black feathers, don't even touch that shit. It's Sephiroth. That's all we need to know.
By putting in the black feathers, they're creating the concrete connections that we're talking about. We're worried they're not going to have. By putting in by using the music scores that line up almost perfectly. By using the black feathers, they're creating that connective, that tissue between these different stories that are making it so the people that really look into it will be able to formulate like actual concrete connections to what this story is, and not just have it be a bunch of metaphysical fluff that doesn't make a lot of sense at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like looking at some dudes.
Don't give me some fucking midichlorians in this shit. I don't want midichlorians in my
Well, well, sometimes it sucks, don't get me wrong. But in this case, they're providing the material for those like Max, who live and breathe this stuff and can see between the lines, and Strippin as well, who can find these little stories that are basically like roadmaps to where this stuff goes. And it's kind of like, by putting all that together, you can come up with an actual cogent story. They're just not smacking you across the face with it. They're giving you the tools to do it instead of not providing any of the tools and making you assume a lot of it, which I feel was the problem with Kingdom Hearts a lot of times. They would get so far from alluding to what actually was right that there were so many different things that could be right that it just, at the end of the day, it was like, I just take a dart to a dartboard and, multiple things would make sense. But because of all these little hints, they're giving us the blueprint we have to actually build a foundational story that makes sense in the world.
Yeah. My personal opinion is Final Fantasy VII was a fantastic story. It was a tragedy, and they fell short in two areas. Sephiroth and his influence and his involvement, and like the character's emotions. And this time they have a chance, and I think this is what they're doing. They're going to put Sephiroth in control. I think that was what this whole game and ending was about, was like, we just inadvertently gave Sephiroth the fucking driving seat. And he's going to drive a tragedy for us. And now we get to like see all these fantastic characters experience this tragedy properly. And I think we are still going to see a lot of similar elements. I think maybe, Sephiroth will try and tell Cloud, hey, you don't want to let Aerith die. And Aerith's going to be like, no, I need to. Right? Like, where are we going to go with this? But I think their whole
so much of that already
was to put Sephiroth in control. To put the villain at the forefront and let him play his puppet strings and do whatever else he wants to do.
The whole point at the end of 7 was Sephiroth wanted to expose the life stream wholly and fully via Meteor to merge with it. So the basic thinking would be that he would want to recreate that and actually rewrite history to have him accomplish his ultimate goal, which would be that ending. Do you think they're going to follow the events right up to that end point, kind of like they did with Remake, and then right at the very end have everything explode into a bunch of new stuff? Or do you think the entire journey is going to be angled around this new introduction of post-Advent Children Sephiroth, changing the story fundamentally to get to his new point? So, like, is it going to be a culmination point that then everything changes like Remake, or everything's just going to go batshit crazy now that he's in control?
I personally think that the way this game sort of handles like the reverence of Final Fantasy VII, the references, the nods, the emotional beats, the notes, the way they enhance everything. I think the whole goal of all this weird shit and like timeline stuff is just to enhance, right? They want to take the things that you remember of the original FF7 and amplify the shit out of it. Like I took a while to come to some of these conclusions about why is there still, we don't know what the hell is Zack doing in this alternate timeline. Why are they introducing an alternate timeline? And the whole point I feel behind a lot of this shit happening is that we need to enhance a moment, which is what's the next biggest moment in FF7? It's obviously Aerith's death. So what if Aerith's death not only happens to Cloud again, like in current game, what if it also happens to Zack? What if two characters that are like,
if that's like
this
the part
character is
2?
super important too?
Yeah.
Like, right, maybe. And I like how they handle it. I don't want to see like, a split screen shot of Cloud and Zack going, like that's not how you do it.
Reaction!
Reaction face. Like, no, the implication that Zack is around somewhere, that Zack and Aerith are important to each other, if they can establish that, and then you realize that this is happening to the Cloud, but it also happened to Zack, that everyone loses Aerith. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, that has like enhanced the moment suddenly. Suddenly it hurts even more because she was just as important to them as they are to us.
What if they flip that scene?
Where
Zack dies and this time Aerith dies and Zack sees Rain, right? Like they could just do fucking anything.
And there's already that comparison that, like, Zack has taken Cloud's life in his alternate timeline, just the way Cloud took his life. Like, or is living his life is what I mean. So they're already doing sort of like these comparative scenarios.
Yeah, I still can't get over the fact that like the symbolism of killing the plot ghosts and killing all those things and freeing ourselves from the chains that were holding us to the original timeline. It's still going to be so strange to me if we go down the original timeline. I feel so much like that is the developer saying, "Look, we've broken the chains. You literally just fought a giant towering boss, proving to you that we don't have to do what we did before. But we're doing what we did before." Just it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. Like I don't get me wrong. It'd be cool, and if Aerith doesn't die, it'd be even weirder. Let me say that.
That'd be weird for you.
It'd be so weird. It would be weird for me if Aerith didn't die, because that was such an iconic thing in 7. But I mean that was one of those things that really made you feel in games back in the day. Like that was an impactful, serious thing that happened. At least it was for me, not for everyone. But to have that not happen in something that's Final Fantasy VII, it would be such a conflicting event to have happen.
What if they like fully flip the script where like the scene?
I love Aerith.
Where the scene adds up, right? And like Aerith is like the scene's about to happen. Your childhood memory is in front of you. And then at last second, like Cloud's fucking sword or something drops in the way of Sephiroth, right? Like
that's exactly what I'm expecting to happen.
Okay.
That is exactly like I'm expecting them to be like, "Oh look, it's just like it had to be. You killed Fate. Gotcha."
That doesn't do it for you? You'd rather die?
The holy thing pops out and the sword hits the holy thing and shatters it. And then you're like, Aerith lives, but there's no more holy?
That's
true.
No,
it's a new possibility.
Yeah.
I think you're going to set it up so that
I think taking that moment. and like moving it, right? Like suddenly that isn't where she actually dies. Like maybe it happens somewhere else. I think that's also like a possibility.
The whole sacrifices move to the end of the game where she has to give herself to actually cause the event to happen instead of the materia. You know, but even and that I mean, oh God, see now that you've said that, Max, it's like that would cover all the bases, and she does die. Damn it. Oh man,
I think this conversation is exactly what they wanted. I think the whole journey into the unknown, I think the whole reason it's happening, I honestly do, is to make you to make the player feel like into the unknown, is she gonna live? Right? That's because that's the event of part 2. Like, as much as when people want to say that Golden Saucer and Red 13's backstory and Barrett's cool backstory and Corel, like all the amazing shit, the big thing that's like part 2. Is she gonna live?
It has to culminate in that, right? Like that's
right. That's where the swell of all this shit's gonna be leading up until that moment. Like this is literally the Snape kills Dumbledore moment of Final Fantasy VII, right? Yeah. So what do we have to do to prevent people from like spoiling everything for everybody? Oh, she's just gonna die, like, right? We have to like lead. There has to be something that they have to change that lead up to these events, whether they happen or they don't happen. And I think initially the big thing that they have to do is to instill at the end of this game, holy shit, we don't know what's going to happen. But I still feel that we're going to hit a lot of the same story beats the same way this one did. We're still going to get Cloud is still set up as the unreliable narrator, right? We still don't know what's going on with him. Yeah. We don't know what happened at Nibelheim. They tease it throughout the entire game, and
knows anymore.
We don't even know what he knows. Like everything is the same as the original game, technically, right now. So I don't know. Like it feels like we're just gonna hit the same beats, but they'll be enhanced, right? They're gonna be different.
Yeah. There's a cool element from the passages we read where it was like Sephiroth is missing a lot of himself, and I think, especially in the first game, we see he kind of follows Cloud. He appears everywhere Cloud goes. Cloud looks at Jenova. Sephiroth shows up to get Jenova. Like Cloud is walking down the street. Sephiroth appears in the alleyway next to him, and I think he's following Cloud, and he's just learning about himself. So I think we're going to have this interesting bit in Nibelheim where maybe he's like trying to get piece of himself back, especially if he's Advent Children Sephiroth and he lost a lot of like what made him initially him. I'm excited to see that, dude. There's a couple of things. I'm going to be honest. Go
ahead. Everyone just talk. Strippin go, then we'll have Cohh go, then we'll have Max go.
No. Don't worry about me. Go.
Okay, Cohh go, then we'll have Max go.
Okay, just real quick. So something you just said was really interesting, and it made me wonder: is Sephiroth somehow tied to Cloud? Like, because you did bring up a really good point that he keeps just manifesting around Cloud at these different times.
Absolutely.
And at maybe that Cloud is some form of connection or conveyance that the future Sephiroth is using to get back into the past. So maybe he's reliant on Cloud following that same journey, so he can interact with it from wherever he is. Maybe Sephiroth doesn't even exist in the remake universe, and he's simply using Cloud as some sort of focal point to alter it from his future timeline. So maybe he's not even in remake at all. But then that brings up the interesting point. Why is there that one specific scene where that Shinra dude catches him in the hallway? What was that purpose? Was that one purpose to show us that there is a physical and like corporeal version of him that is walking around? Because at that point, I think we were just entering the building or not even there yet. And then it also brings the question, why was he walking the halls up there? Like what
If he can just appear, why is he walking? Yeah.
Why was he just walking around the hall?
Yeah.
As we read, he needs people to remember him to exist. That guy knows him.
Oh, Palmer
that guy knows
him.
who he is.
Palmer knows
that's
to
Sephiroth.
have Shinra react to it. Yeah.
So it's just another thing to get people talking. Fuck, Sephiroth's in the building. Sephiroth's here. And as long as people remember him, he can go wherever he wants. He can use them to travel.
He's essentially using the clones to travel at the end. He's using the clones as like perspective.
Yeah. So maybe that was the manifestation of a clone. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. So maybe there's the OG version still in the world, and then the post remake version also interacting with that stuff. So there's like this almost.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Maybe.
Palmer, maybe. I mean, Sephiroth exists. Obviously, Sephiroth is still in the remake world as classic remade Sephiroth, but then we have the introduction of this more advanced version of Sephiroth also interacting.
Now we're talking Kingdom Hearts.
Here we go. Okay, so
Xehanort, he was Norded. His eyes were yellow. There was multiple versions.
Because in the original game, the same thing happens.
Got it.
Palmer watches Sephiroth kill the president.
Right.
He's there. Barrett grabs him, and then Palmer's like freaking out. But Palmer doesn't actually like watch the event transpire, because the event transpires differently, because obviously shit has changed. But that moment is pretty much the same as a direct take from the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Of Palmer witnessing it.
You mentioned that scene. I do want to talk about a bit about Barrett. Not Barrett. Jesus, I just combined Barrett and Aerith. Barrett dying. Did you guys think he actually died? Like, was there a split second where it's like, oh my god, they killed Barrett? I definitely had like
as soon as a plot ghost showed up, I was like, oh, okay,
yes,
they're gonna fix
plot
it.
ghost. I knew it was probably
exactly.
The thing that got me was the same smoke went into the president. That's when I questioned it, because when he stabs the president, the smoke is also present, like the weird whisper smoke.
Yeah,
but the president stays dead. So there was a brief moment where I was like, oh, that was not different from the first time he stabbed someone in that scene. But then the ghost came out, and I was like, oh, we're good.
I'm gonna say really quick, the reason like a lot of that weird whisper smoke is there most likely isn't due to like contextual story stuff. It's ESRB, because you're showing direct impalement, and you can't show blood or direct impalement. And I can say from working on games where some of that kicks in, considering how much cursing and adult themes that are throughout the game, it might have kicked it to M.
Yeah.
So,
which is why Genova was purple instead of red.
Yeah, but that's also
literally the reason.
It was red in the original, right? But also, isn't it?
It was blood.
Yeah.
In Japan, isn't blood like looked down upon or like frowned upon in terms of having that in any sort of media?
It depends.
It's China, isn't it?
Oh, I guess
in Japan,
maybe
like certain things like decapitations and things like that are sort of frowned upon.
Okay,
it depends on the game, but
yeah,
for the most
China,
part, that's
illegal to show blood in a game.
Did Final Fantasy?
No, I think the Barrett death was probably just like another nod to like Aerith when she fell off the banister in the church and a plot ghost caught her. Like, it was basically just saying like this is just another example showing the player like we're not going off the rails yet, and we're not going off the rails because of these creatures, and you kill these creatures at the end of the game. Following yet?
Yeah,
like I think it's more of that kind of thing.
It's also showing how much power Sephiroth has, because Sephiroth is like essentially saying, "Fuck the plot ghosts. I do what I want."
Yeah.
Like they don't control me. Like, and that's the idea, is that he practically, because it's sort of revealed not too long after that he technically is in control. He's actually allowed to do this stuff, and he's like directly fucking with you as the player at that point. Whether you call it like cheap or whatnot,
as well, that they've killed the one thing that was bringing them back to life at his bidding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all Sephiroth manipulating the shit out of you at the end of the game, and that's what's that's what I love about it, because they're bringing back this core element of what Sephiroth is. He's like this master manipulator throughout the original FF7, just fucking with all of our main characters all the way up until the Northern Crater. Like the gimmick, Cohh, and you were mentioning this a second ago, what is Sephiroth's like intention? Sephiroth still needs Cloud to deliver the black materia, because his physical body, like where his true power is, his connection to the life stream, is still stuck up at the Northern Crater. And even though his like mimetic legacy, his cellular information has somehow gone back in time, has seen the future, has as awareness, has transmitted it to the point where he can sort of like manifest himself, Sephiroth clearly isn't at full power yet. Right? He's got these Advent Children forms that he can take on through, crazy clones and shit, but he still needs that direct connection to the life stream. Like, he needs Cloud to deliver the black materia. And that's setting up the same events.
It's interesting because it's like Cloud is like a work of art that Sephiroth is working on, and every time he provides one of those flashbacks, every time we see him, it's like he's taking little chips and like molding him in an image that he's then going to use to do whatever his final thing is. I wouldn't be surprised if like at the end of this entire thing, like the very last thing before Sephiroth dies, he just smiles and he's like, all is planned. And then we're just like, what? No!
I still win.
And then we get Final Fantasy VII Remake 2.146 divided by 7. It's going to happen. Get excited. Coming out on the PS Beta or something.
There's a bunch of shit that like confirms the theories. At one point, Aerith mentions that the Whispers are trying to steal her memories. And these could very easily be the memories that she's inherited from her future Aerith. They're trying to keep her on track.
Yeah, it takes like a piece of herself. She describes it as.
And the really interesting thing I find is that initially only Cloud can see Sephiroth, right? And as more people in his party begin to learn about Sephiroth, you end up at the Shinra building where they can all see him.
Yeah.
And I think it's just playing on that theme of like, as more people know about him, as you know who he is and you understand him, he can manifest. In front of you. So.
Yeah, I love all the little moments where it's like the first time you see Sephiroth, Cloud grabs his left arm and they have this really specific shot of it. Like he's like racked with pain. You don't see what he's feeling. You don't see what he's visioning, but they have this super close shot of him gripping his arm super hard. It's the same arm that he has Geostigma. And he never does that whenever he gets like pain. But when he sees Sephiroth, he feels Geostigma because that's what his plan is. His plan is to infect the fucking planet, right?
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Can we talk about Aerith?
Yeah.
Can we talk about how like Aerith throughout the game is hyper aware? Like, or she seems like at the beginning how she's like.
I would love to hear you explain this because for me it only happens at the very end.
Whatever you do, you can't fall in love with me. That line stuck with me so hard. And for those that don't know, there's multiple different scenes you can get when you have like the dream scene and the parent. And I happen to get Aerith, and literally Aerith is like, yeah, it's been so much fun. You've had such a big impression on me, Cloud. Like everything's good, but just keep in mind, you can't fall in love with me. And it's like, why would you say that? Like you clearly know exactly what's going to happen. Like you have fundamental knowledge of what's going to transpire here. You would never like. Oh my lordy, that
I know the like I just want to help comment she makes and stuff like that. Like as if she knows that she's got an expiration date. Like it's super strong. Super strong.
And the thing is, she at the beginning of the game, she sort of goes from freaked out of the whispers and not knowing what they are and being intimidated by all this stuff. This is like some level 7 like theory shit that some people have gone into. That essentially Aerith at the end of the original Final Fantasy VII with her like looking up, and it's the same vision of her right after she cast Holy, used the life stream to save everybody from Meteor, is the same Aerith that wakes up at the beginning of this game. As that like the ending of Final Fantasy VII Original was sort of a premonition that all of FF7 OG is like information the planet is giving to her in like an instant, like 37-hour instant.
In that alleyway or whatever is what
in
you're
that
referencing?
Alleyway.
Yeah.
But this time it's different. She feels Sephiroth, right? Sephiroth's music is there. There's like a music premonition that also is telling the player this is a different Final Fantasy VII.
The choir,
right? He is here now.
Yeah.
The choir kicks in.
I've read that theory too, and the only fundamental issue there is that would then imply the original didn't happen, which would then imply that Advent Children didn't happen, which would then imply that the Sephiroth we have in Remake is not the Sephiroth from the end of Advent Children. And so those are
it would imply it did happen.
No, if it was like feeding all the information and it was just like a simulation kind of deal, because that's the one that I read, where it was basically like saying, this is what could happen, you need to prevent it.
Oh, what could happen.
That then implies that it has to happen. So like for the Sephiroth to exist in Final Fantasy VII R, that is the Sephiroth post-Advent Children, those events had to transpire. He had to be created. The Carnage sequence had to happen, and he had to reform with these new powers to return to Remake. Or he wouldn't be in this new director machination role.
I think that's the point, is that it hasn't happened yet, right? Is that the planet's aware that this is what's going to happen. I don't think these events are going to transpire.
That theory works at all. Because
I'm not even completely on board with it either. That's like level 7 shit that I'm not.
And I really like that's about the different timelines, but even then, like it when you're dealing with different timelines, there's still this certain element of, if this doesn't happen, then that can't exist. And that's the perspective I'm looking at this from. Now, of course, there'd be dealing with different timelines, you can always come up with a way to
you can make some bullshit up.
I just think that would be a little weird if that worked. Now, something else that very much could happen is going from the stories that Strippin just read about these peripheral souls that were like monitoring the different souls in the live stream. I mean, there's absolutely no question that if Sephiroth came up with some kind of power in the future to move his cellular version back to Remake, how was that viewed by the other people in the live stream at that point? And could they have moved knowledge back with Sephiroth when he went back? So maybe there's some
Sephiroth and Aerith never joined the live stream.
Stop saying live. It's life. Pronounce
they never join the live stream. They just travel along it, right? And so, like for me, it's like Sephiroth got his knowledge, and Aerith was like, "Fuck, I got to do that too." And the planet isn't part of that, right? And that's what the whispers are: is the planet trying to save its own art?
Like the last line of defense is Aerith describes it.
That's why for me it doesn't work that the live stream would give Aerith these memories. I think she gave herself those memories, and I think the live stream is doing its own thing and trying to like mediate and do its own thing to like keep everything on course.
Future Aerith, even though she doesn't manifest like future Sephiroth, could be a potential player in future Final Fantasy VII Remake games, maybe?
Well, they already showed that in this game. Cloud has a dream where Aerith is locked up. And she starts dropping plot onto Cloud. You can't fall in love with me. You can't do all this stuff. If you want to come save me, you can. But it's almost like that version of Aerith is technically her. Maybe. It's almost like that's her from the future.
She just changed her name.
So maybe
she's not there.
Aerith, the one that was in our game.
Possibly. I mean, it's definitely likely. But she definitely speaks in a much more aware fashion of exactly what's going to happen. But even though, like Aerith, it's like Aerith at the beginning of the story has like part 1 of the script, and there's like 90 parts. But by the end, she's explaining you that like literally we're gonna go kill Fate. You know, that she's like getting the information as the story goes along.
Yeah.
And if you assess the Harbinger at the end, it specifically says that the Whispers are connected to all threads of time and space that shape the planet's fate. So these ghosts that are coming from the live stream to help stuff is totally feasible. That Sephiroth and Aerith can also traverse time and space, that consciousness that was in the live stream, and just maybe, you know, join with their bodies in the present and just give them more information than they had before.
Yeah.
I don't think they're necessarily the same people. I think those post-Advent children people they're influenced the people in the past. They've given them knowledge they shouldn't have.
And that's the planet sort of like that ties up with the last line of defense, right? Like all that shit, like, okay, nothing is right suddenly. Like everything is wrong with what's going on here. Everything's trying its best to like figure out what's going on. And there's like elements of this game that are aggressive. The plot ghosts are aggressive and they're in your face and they're constantly doing this shit. It's like the planet's kind of bad at its job. But at the same time, there's also like the small hints, like, yes, Sephiroth showing up and Cloud having visions of the future that are handled like super well. So,
sure. Someone in chat mentioned something about the line that Sephiroth says. I think it's when they're on like the edge of creation or in space or whatever, with the 7 seconds to live. What do you guys think that is that defined in what that actually references, or is there theories? It's in the game. It is defined. Okay, what is it referencing? Because I definitely like that's one of those things where I never caught on.
It's 7 seconds before the end of the world, before like the end of like before destruction. So it's either 7 seconds before Meteor, 7 seconds before something happens to Cloud. But in the chapter select, if you go back to it, it says it's 7 seconds before like at the end of everything.
In like chapter 18 or something like that?
Yeah, it actually says it's not. It specifically says it.
Okay.
Specifically at the end of the game, there was a lot of people going around saying that had something to do with Aerith's death scene. Like there was a 7
I think that
scene.
Yeah.
They said it took 7 seconds for her to die in the original game or something like that.
Yeah. The Aerith scene is like 7 or 30 seconds, just depending on where you cut it. So it's like it's just a super weird, convenient thing for someone to cut the clip to be 7 seconds long and go, look at this, right? And it's just like, well, okay, but
being said,
it's like the Barrett Tifa,
yeah. What was that?
Can we do that at the end of the game too? Like, is there a specific 7 second block somewhere at the end of original that people have synced up to being like, it's that 7 seconds? Like, do we have an actual concrete connection to 7 seconds of something at some point in the game somewhere?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because the game tells you what it is. I think it's specifically left to be unknown what that's referring to. Like, because the point isn't like what happens in 7 seconds. It's the choice that Cloud makes. 7 seconds and what you'll choose to do with it is something what Sephiroth says. So the whole point is that Cloud's going to be given a choice at some point when he's on the edge of creation in the future that he has to make this choice. Is it going to be the choice?
You're going to get an actual 7 second timer.
Dude, this game already sets up choices all over the place, right? Like more choices than the original FF7 has. Who's to say the next games won't have the same thing?
It's going to be like sacrifice one of your party members for the rest of the playthrough. 7, 6.
Yeah.
You just get like a list of all the
it's just Cloud, press X for Cloud, circle for Aerith.
I do think it was about Meteor, and it wasn't like a specific in-joke of there's definitely 7 seconds for something.
I think everyone, as Chat's pointing out, I think why everyone thinks it pertains to the Aerith death scene from the original game was because the music from that area that she dies in is playing in Remake when they're at the edge of creation. So that's why everyone thinks it ties to.
Yeah, the City of the Ancients theme is playing there.
Yeah, City of the Ancients. Yeah.
So maybe I think it might have a. That's why, like, there's so much stuff that is still like concrete can't give you any answers. There's no evidence of where the hell they're going with this stuff.
I think
that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It makes for some very interesting discussion.
Yeah.
As long as they cut out those fucking puzzles for the sequel, I'm good, bro.
Oh,
yeah. Something we all can agree on, like the level design in this game is like archaic, classic Square Enix BS level design, right?
I think it's weird because like they have to reference. They did a really good job, I think, of writing the line of like, we want to make sure that people that play the original game see all this shit and enjoy all this shit, while also not being and creating and having the same mistakes of a PS1 era game.
Yeah.
And I think they did that for a large portion of the game. The puzzles, though, were fucking bad.
Yeah.
It was just a pain in the ass. It was busy work. They were not exciting. It did not work at all. But for the most part,
20-year-old puzzles that they just thought, we should keep it the same for nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it
was for nostalgia. 100%. There's no other reason they left that in there. Right.
And I can't even think of like I don't play all of Square Enix games, right? But are there many other big like Final Fantasy main headline Square Enix games, maybe Dragon Quest XI, that have level design sort of similar? To me, it kind of seems like this is almost an identity of Square to have like these sort of funky, very easy, weird, in the way feeling levels instead of like giant interactive levels in many ways.
Resident Evil kind of does the same. It might just be like Japanese game design, maybe, because like Resident Evil had a lot of the similar shit in all of its remakes, right? That were just annoying and not necessarily like good puzzles. But in terms of like Square Enix
then you have
stuff,
like the
I don't know.
Like FromSoft, who's like the greatest in the fucking world at it, you know?
Well, FromSoft, there's always an exception to a rule, right?
Yeah.
There always is an exception to the rule.
But that's what I think. That's my big like gripe in this game. The world doesn't have enough interactivity. Like I want to fight in it more. I just want to do things in the world more. There's a lot of walking and talking. The only thing that, because this game is essentially Yakuza, right? They just took Final Fantasy VII and Yakuza, and they're like, yeah. Okay, so let's present our characters in that way with an extreme fashion, or let's present our characters in situations and areas like the same way Yakuza does, and I think that works extremely well. The only problem is that all those areas, the only thing you have to carry you is the characters and the great music, right? Characters, music, and combat. If that wasn't as good as it is, those would be glaring issues, like huge issues of the game. But you
go the wrong way and the fucking little cross comes up, and oh my god, I want to kill everyone.
I think that like in some ways, the idea of having a minimap does a disservice to the game because it shows the player that you're literally just walking down straight lines in an otherwise beautiful area. But you're just walking down corridors. It's like Final Fantasy 13 syndrome.
Yeah.
But spelled out for you in a sense.
People describe this game as Final Fantasy 13, but done well.
Yeah, I saw that a lot. What were we gonna say, Cohh?
I think like it was kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of that was throwback. Like if they were to make like big, giant, complex levels, like they weren't really like that in 7. So it would have been kind of off the
I agree.
At the same time, they were so beautiful at times. Like just walking around trash heaps was gorgeous, and like the cities, you just
hallways
could literally
look so good.
You could push forward the slightest bit on the stick and just like exist walking down some of these like giant pathways, and I loved that about it. I loved how it kept like a lot of the simplicity of the original, but stuff that you just would have run through because it was like single color textures, in the original. This time it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Perfect example of
everywhere.
Perfect example of like a walking and talking moment that is like amazing. Right after Cloud gets that vision, right, of the future, and he sees like he had the tear and all that stuff, right? And he's like, forget it, let's go. You start walking and this music kicks in. And you're just walking at night through this area that you haven't seen at night before. And then they start casually talking about like what's happened with Midgar, how Aerith feels about Midgar, what's going up on the plate. And there's this very, very small conversation they have before Aerith is like, well, that's Wall Market. It's fucking awful. I don't want to go that way. I don't like that place. And just that little in between is so good. Like, and it's carried by the music. It's carried by the characters. Like, if the game didn't have that stuff and the amazing visuals, if it didn't have that stuff, this would be a big issue. But I think it isn't a huge issue because of all the other aspects that are just exemplary.
Totally, I agree.
Even walking on the rooftops and learning about Aerith as you walk was such a good way to introduce you to the new personality of this character.
That's very well done.
It was just like
that
you
rooftop
walk, she
scene
walks.
was too distracting.
It was
Wait,
great.
hold on. Was I the only person that
Stopping.
was I the only person that let her hang there for 24 hours and streamed the next day?
Everyone came on the stream and they were like, Aerith fell, she grabbed the ladder, she yelled shit, and JP left her there.
Yeah. I ended my stream as she just hung there.
That's
and I left my
amazing.
PS4 on for 24 hours.
They should have put a nod in there. If you leave it on for 8 hours,
She falls
says like,
or
she
something.
literally is like, I'm still gonna die.
Yeah. I would have loved that. Yeah. There was another scene too where you have to, I think it was after the crane puzzle thing where you have to like pull her up a ladder. I also ended the stream there as well. So I did it twice.
I
too.
pet her with the hand. I was like, burger, 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 all over the head. She's like, Cloud.
Oh my god. Fuck, I forgot what I was going to reference now. What was that, Co?
Oh, I was just saying you're terrible people.
I had a big question for you guys regarding where the hell all this shit is going, like in the next game that's not just story stuff. How many of you guys agree that part 2 is going to be large environment, quote unquote, open world Final Fantasy 15 style?
I hope so because of the evolution of the PS. Like I'm hoping that the hardware makes that possible. That they can do what they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake and make it open world. But I'm also fearful because like development time is, but like that's insane to put that.
They've been working on part 2 for 6 months.
You want exactly like 7, nothing else?
I want it exactly like 7. I want a beautiful transition world map system with a really cool way to go in and out of it. Random fights on the map. I'll zoom into iconic locations that then have their own like giant redeveloped indoor area. If they were to dramatically change that system, I feel like that would be too much.
I don't know if they can do that.
Dragon Quest 11 do that? Like pretty similar to original FF7?
And what?
It's like the same thing, right? Like you're a little character walking around a big world. You get into fights.
Yeah.
You go to a town. You enter the town.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just do that.
Maybe. I think because of the
I think they could do it like what they've proven through Remake is they can take the blueprint of the original and they can make tasteful, like good QOL style adjustments to it to bring it in. Now, of course, here I am saying I want it to be like the original. I'd be surprised if they deviate. But then all you have to do is look at the combat system, and obviously they have no problems deviating major mechanics.
Right.
So there's a very good chance that we're
doing it well,
completely different.
There's multiple sources but that being said, 15 was a test engine for 7 Remake.
What?
Like a lot of the stuff they did in 15.
Here's the thing. The thing
Remake
though,
I'd be so happy.
Open world, but it's really constrained open world if you think about it. Like,
15
don't get me wrong,
is not
I
open
like
world. It's like an instance.
Exactly. It's like instanced open world. It would not have the same like in Final Fantasy VII, you get like world traversal. Like you actually get to like fly up into this vehicle and then go wherever you want and freaking fly over the ocean and explore islands and stuff like that. So they're gonna need a new system that gets that same feel of like I'm traveling right now. I'm not just going in a flying car and getting from one end of the map to the other in a few minutes. Like I am actually traversing large amounts of distance, going to different biomes in some cases, like completely different styles, like of vegetation and land moisture. So it's like going from arid to jungle and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to do that properly in that constrained kind of feel of a Final Fantasy 15 system. So they're going to need something to move the player extremely large.
Yeah.
Doesn't the recent information regarding next generation, how SSDs are going to be able to
that's what I was about to
process
say.
that data so fast? Maybe that's like a big thing that Square would want to tackle. Like, because Square likes to tackle things, right? They like to get into the meat and bones of tech, and
Sony would love it too to sell hardware.
Sony, that's kind of the thing. I feel like that's the whole point, is that on next generation we can have a giant open world like Final Fantasy 15, not quote unquote open world, big large
world.
areas,
non-corridors.
a bigger world that isn't going to be held by the constraints that Final Fantasy 15 has, which is the Crystal Tools engine, right?
Yeah.
It's an engine that was largely had a shit ton of problems, but they still managed to make it work in FF15. But they're going to have access to like Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is going to have access to all the new crazy data streaming That is way different. That's like the big thing that's going to be different is loading and data streaming.
That's what I was going to
say. So it seems like that sort of is like.
Well, okay.
I was going to say that for Cohh, they can't make the same game because Final Fantasy VII Remake has so much bullshit slowdown, walk between pipes because we're loading everything
literal
in front
loading
of you.
issues.
We're going to, we're through the pipes and loaded. They can't do that anymore.
That's something to consider. Think about this. Think about a place like Golden Saucer.
Go ahead.
Think about how large the Golden Saucer location is. So if they were to stick that into like a persistent map, they would then have to make content for all the outlying area around it, new actual movable content between every location out there and about. Like the amount of extra stuff they would have to actually create and add to the world to make some kind of persistent map system outside of iconic locations would be almost in the same level of content they'd be doing just with the locations themselves. So it seems kind of like, and the game's already going to take so long. So it seems like having some kind of system outside of those locations to move around, kind of like 7 did with the map system, it seems like a no-brainer if you think about it.
And it'd be true to the original as well.
It would be.
Yeah.
But what if they approached it with the same linearity that the original has? Like the original FF7 gives you the feeling that you're in this giant open world, but you really can only go to the Crystal Caves.
Islands.
You are essentially locked.
And
what are you bound by? What are you bound by in the original 7? Your lack of vehicles, your lack of transportation. So if they just do the same thing where you only get access to chocobos can't go up mountains, chocobos can't go through marshes. Maybe in the new one, you have to fight the snake on a different level. I don't know, but that if they approach it the same way.
Oh, now here's an idea. What if they were to make it like a hybrid, where it's like those Crystal Cave sequences? Those were fully developed new times, right? Fully developed new things. But then they take out like the airship section, they take out the world map random fight stuff, and they make that just some kind of like cinematic jaunt where you just pick a location on a map and just plays a of you taking a thing there.
Kids like then it's like go and you tell them
a mix of A and B.
Towards the end of the game, you're basically just looking at a giant world map of all the locations you can explore, and you're just like selecting where to go. And that way they could like fully develop the on-foot locations and all the stuff where you're moving your player around the map between places. Those would be Final Fantasy 15 style fleshed out locations.
Yeah, they did that in 10.
Oh, people are saying Final Fantasy 10 style.
Yeah, somewhat.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I'd like it more involved though.
A little bit more developed in the 7 remake style.
Of like all these elements would be the best way to do it, right? A little bit of the original 7, maybe some FF10 stuff in some ways. Maybe take big zones and stuff like that in Final Fantasy 15, but try to like marry them with new technology, right? Just give players access to something. I think the whole point is that they want people to experience that feeling, right? The feeling of leaving the Midgar for the first time, of being like, wow, there is a big, whoa, look at all this crazy shit, you know? Like, I think that's going to be a big goal of theirs for part 2.
And that's going to be hard, right? Because
it would be interesting if it was like 15, where where Final Fantasy 7 Remake starts and it's just your party just standing in front of like a long road or something out of Midgard. Like that is a very different feeling.
Well, they have to recreate it for 2 parties. They have to recreate it for people that played the first part, and then they have to remake it for new people. But go ahead. Man.
Huge brain theory. Here's a huge brain theory. And this is just like predictions, right? I have this very lucky batting average that I completely called how everything was going to happen in FF7 Remake super early on, like when they first announced this game. I'm like, first part's going to be Midgar. They're going to end right at the end of the freeway. It's going to be like a Lord of the Rings ending versus our big journey, yada, yada, yada. Huge brain theory is that part 2 is Sephiroth and Cloud and a couple of Shinra grunts in the back of a truck bouncing up and down.
That's how it starts.
And that's the beginning of the game. The beginning of the game is you already in the Nibelheim flashback, and it's revealed.
Nibelheim flashback.
You play as Sephiroth. Sephiroth teaches Cloud how to play.
Yeah, that's
tutorial.
That'd be smart for sure.
And then right after that, you leave Comm, and you're like, oh, let's go on our journey. Like tomorrow, we're leaving. We're gonna go to the Chocobo farm and see if we can get transportation. And then this ninja girl shows up, and she jacks all your stuff.
Yeah,
and she takes all your materia.
To handle it that way.
They already touched on it too with the Tifa comment in the bar where he says it's only been 5 years and she's really confused, and they never went back to it.
Yeah, they never touched that. So Tifa tries to grill Cloud on what's going on. Like, do you not remember what happened? Are you okay? Like, they're already touching on it. I love it, dude.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That'd be a great way to start it for sure, because it's a great way to tutorialize the player into it. It also makes for new players
play as Sephiroth.
Yeah, it also makes for new players to like understand the characters, understand what's happening without having played the first remake, although it's probably heavily suggested.
See, that would be so interesting because then at that point, it's like, which Sephiroth would that be that you're playing?
Be past.
Cloud's memory of Sephiroth.
Yeah. It would be
technically
past
Cloud's
Sephiroth,
memory.
but then at that point, would the new Sephiroth start influencing this somehow?
That'd be cool if that's how they take it.
Well, I think right. The first time you see Sephiroth after that is when you go and you try to cross the marsh and you run into the snake and the snake is impaled.
Right.
And you're like, whoa, Sephiroth's crazy powerful. That's where you're going to be. Like you're essentially following his trail.
I forgot about that scene.
A Nibelheim flashback could be the perfect way for Sephiroth to learn about himself too. If we establish from those readings that he doesn't know that stuff anymore, right? It could open that door too.
It's a lot that Cloud is piecing this stuff together like that. And Tifa's going to have her own conflict of just like,
what the fuck's going on?
That's not how it happened. And Tifa in the original game is like that. She's like, that's not how it happened. Like she legit gets concerned about Cloud.
And this is a huge brain theory of yours because the last thing we saw was Zack, and people are going to be like, "Who the fuck is Zack?" And then we immediately meet Zack in the second game.
Dude, that would work perfectly. But then what if we're going through this thing and all of a sudden something happens and we see
a plot
I honestly
shows
don't
up?
think it's going to be. I don't think Zack will be in that flashback. I think the flashback will be exactly the same way as in the old game, where Cloud thinks he's Zack.
He's just a soldier and he doesn't want to reveal himself.
Yeah. I think that's the whole they're still going to set up for the big reveal that no, Cloud lost Zack, right? And then eventually adopted his personality. Like the mind prison moment of FF7, which is a big part of the original game. I don't think you can take away that because they're already leading up to the Tifa stuff, that Tifa has to be the one to essentially save Cloud, right? Like all that shit has to sort of transpire
I don't know, man.
still, right?
There was a scene that happened in this game and it fucking pissed me off because I feel like it didn't do it justice. It's the scene where Tifa and Cloud are kids and they're on the water thing.
Yeah.
And he's talking about leaving. And like I feel like they removed so much vulnerability from Cloud in that scene. And like it wasn't as good as the original scene. And they kind of like took some of that away. So I don't know how much they want to lean on like Cloud's fucking unstable basket case because I feel like they didn't do that scene justice really. But
is it because of where it took place? They save it, they put it in like later, right before a boss fight for some reason. Cloud just gets like a random vision.
And also like the dialogue is a bit different. And like Cloud doesn't in the original, to me, he came across like an outcast. And in that scene, he comes across as like, hey, I'm leaving Midgard like all the other guys. I'm going to be a soldier. And she's like, cool, make a promise. And it didn't really feel like he was like always weird.
Who's having that flashback, though? Is Cloud having that flashback himself?
Yeah, Cloud's having that flashback.
I mean, that might be bad memory. Might be bad memory,
maybe we see a Tifa version of the flashback and it's different.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think a big part of that is like interpretation, right? Like how you feel about that moment, because that's a big moment in the original.
Because it's not voiced in the original, right? So maybe what I took away from that scene was very different than they intended.
Your internal,
and I do agree with you. Yeah. It feels different.
It does feel different.
Speaking of flash forwards and flashbacks, quick side topic, but I actually have forgotten about this entirely. So hopefully you guys can help me out here. Someone just asked this in chat as well, and this is kind of a good form to touch on this real quick. Can someone explain the significance of Cowgirl Tifa picking up Sephiroth's sword in those flash forward? I'm assuming they were. Where was that again?
That's in the Nibelheim incident.
That's the Nibelheim incident.
That is the Nibelheim incident. Yeah. That's
okay.
That's, okay. Spoilers. That's Tifa's father. That's Sephiroth has killed Tifa's father.
Okay.
And they also amplify the shit out of the Nibelheim incident, that ensuing that Sephiroth murders Cloud's mother. Which and they don't give you any answer for that in the original game, right? You don't even know what the hell happens to Cloud's mom.
Yeah, you don't know.
You have this flashback with Cloud and his mom, but you don't know, like, so wait a minute, we're at Nibelheim and Shinra covered up the entire incident and there's fake people living here. What the fuck happened to the original people that were living here? What's going on? I think that's what they're going to explore a bit more, because they already allure that, Sephiroth just straight murders Cloud's mother. And kills Tifa's father and all this stuff. It's going to get way worse.
Can we also talk about how they kept awful clothes on Tifa that look completely fucking ridiculous?
Yeah, her 17-year-old clothes.
God, they look so bad. They look so stupid.
Also,
same
I just
outfit.
realized
same outfit.
I'm going to play 7 original before the next one comes out, because I had completely forgotten about that.
It's probably worth. When I played the Midgard portion,
20 years ago, man.
Dude, when I played the Midgard portion, I talked about it. 10-year-old me did not recall or did not like make a mental note that like aliens are involved in this story. Like,
There's a
it goes weird places, and I forgot all that.
There's a lot of like space reference and like cosmic horror stuff, and there's a lot of like connection to the universe sort of things that Bugenhagen sets up. Like, I cannot wait to get to fucking Red 13's hometown and talk to Bugenhagen, because this dude's gonna know everything, right? This guy's gonna have so much information.
Yeah.
He's still gonna be cryptic about it. He's not gonna tell you.
Hey, what's he gonna
like,
look like though? Because in the OG, he just doesn't have fucking legs.
Yeah, he just floats.
So
he's just like Master
Roshi
just gonna be
legs. He's gonna be like, is he gonna be cross-legged? And they just couldn't do that like at the time, so they just cut his legs off. Like, what does he look like? I'm interested.
Maybe
to see that,
I hope he just floats. I hope he's just a floaty guy. You know.
But Max, the reason I mentioned Zach is because there's that hidden Nibelheim scene where they kind of zone back to Hojo and they're in the vats.
Yeah.
And they get out. And I just wonder if they're gonna like put it all together at the same time. Kind of give us a bit
the big question is, when do they put that stuff together? Like, are they gonna set up the events
Hojo
and save that till later?
Yeah. Hojo arrives right after Sephiroth leaves.
Yeah.
And then does his reunion project and starts injecting people in Nibelheim and numbering them. So yeah, it's gonna be weird to me if they tie that all in, or if they just stick to the flashback, right? And
the big thing of the flashback in the old game is that Cloud's flashback very conveniently, for the sake of plot, cuts off at a crazy moment, and it's right before Cloud kills Sephiroth. Cloud doesn't remember anything else, and Tifa's like, and everyone else in the party is like, "What? That's it? What happens after that?" And he's like, "I don't remember." And you're like, "What? That's horribly unsatisfying. What? How are you alive?" And Cloud's like, "I don't know." And are they gonna do that again? Like, that's the big question. Is that, are they just gonna leave? And they specifically do that because right after Hojo shows up, right? It puts Cloud and Zack in vats. Reunion project starts. Like, all this super critical stuff happens, and that's how the first game sets up Cloud as the unreliable narrator. So literally, like, he's so bad at telling the story of FF7. And the big question is, are they going to set up the unreliable narrator aspect? You know, it seems like they are, to be honest, because he still is. He still has the one flashback in this game of himself when he falls into the church, and he gets like himself talking to himself, like the actual Cloud talking to him. He's like, "You okay? Yeah. Can you move your legs? Are you feeling all right?" And you get fake Cloud talking back. So, yeah. Putting on the persona. I love that that's still there, because, you know, it makes no fucking sense right now. Like, I love it. Because in the original game, you're just as confused. That's why the big revelation of FF7 isn't the fact that Aerith dies. The huge, fantastic revelation of the story of this game is that as what Cloud goes through, of like the horrible mental trauma that has been put through, and like the physical abuse that he goes through, to the point of which he thinks he's a different person, and he puts on a persona to hide his emotions. Like, it's one of the greatest themes of FF7, and if they remove that, I'll be genuinely disappointed. Like, it's genuinely won't.
It's so important to the story. I don't think they can remove that, right? Like, they're going to lean on that, if anything, or they should lean on that, if anything. Yeah,
or it may just happen in a different way.
I think if anyone removes it, Sephiroth does.
He makes it not happen so that it doesn't like formulate.
I mean,
or form.
He already established so much value. Like, we know that like Sephiroth needs Cloud to exist. We see that like in the ending, he offers a hand to Cloud, knowing how much value it would be to have Cloud.
Dude, I thought he was going to shake that hand. I was so excited if he shook that hand.
Yeah, like he's like, "Cloud, join me, because if you join me,
Sephiroth becomes playable character. Dude. They fucking go fight whoever."
Man. I don't know if Sephiroth's going to fuck with him to the point of being like, "You're not even who you think you are." You know what I mean? So
good.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see how it goes.
That's what I'm excited about. The moment I realized that Sephiroth is essentially aware, he's like omnipresent of what happened to him in the future, and he's back, motherfucker. Like, I'm back.
I'm so bad.
I am not happy about this. I love it.
He's already great.
But I'm always going to smile about
it. Damn, dude.
He's always got this wry smile the entire game, where he's just like, "Yeah, I know everything that's going to happen. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Every time you think you're making a choice, it's because you're making the choice I want you to."
And that's where I go back to,
even when he knows that he knows he's not going to say yes. He's like,
every time he talks shit, they zone in on his like plump, juicy lips for some fucking reason. And he's like, I know exactly what you want, Cloud.
That's where I go back to like getting upset at the game, because I've already seen that, not necessarily Kingdom Hearts, but I've already seen that type of villain in so many other types of media. In terms of like, I know everything. You can't. Fate's going to go because I'm controlling all this. Like, that's where I'm just like, fuck, I've seen this shit already. But it's still cool because it's fucking Sephiroth, and that's
Yeah,
That's
it's like one of the best villains of all time,
Yeah.
doing more of what he does in the original game now.
Right, with the
And
manipulation and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
We go back to what
I think
JP
the
says
big-
about the Nomura bullshit, because that is like what that
It is, yeah.
I think the big difference of like, the Nomura bullshit essentially kicking in is that we have an idea of where these characters are going in their resolutions.
Well,
And
we
a
had
lot
an
of
idea
other
in Kingdom
Nomura-
Hearts, but he didn't deliver it. That's the issue for me. Like, well, I guess you're saying we have a game that planned all this shit.
We know.
out. Yeah, sure.
we know
Sure.
how this shit is going to end.
Sure.
Like for the sake of everyone Nomura setting up for people and then like either disappointing them or not disappointing them, you didn't know where it was going. Like you thought you had an idea. We have a clear and concise idea where this stuff should be going.
Should or could go.
Will they completely deviate from that? That's super. Think about how risky that is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Think about how crazy it is if they completely deviate Final Fantasy VII off the rails so much.
It already did. I mean, it was risky to do it in this one, and people are already upset, right? Like there's already
5% of it was risky.
Yeah, but
95% is completely on rails, dude.
Yeah, and it was still a risk,
it's just
I
that
think.
and in the end, it's like the end 5% is completely derailed, but the last like 1% sets up our characters of just on the same journey. They're just doing the same shit.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Max. When we were playing through it, I'd beat it. Overwhelmingly, people said to me, "Max is gonna fucking hate this ending."
Yeah,
Max is gonna hate
I
the way
didn't
this
like it
plays
when
out because he's such a purist.
To be honest, I was with you. Like I was in this boat where I talked to a lot of my friends and they feel the same way and they don't know what to feel because I was in that situation. When those credits were rolling, I genuinely was emotionally wrought because we're going on the same story, but I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, what is this goofy stuff? It's so dump trucky that it knocks you out. It almost makes you forget how sort of like honorable the rest of the game was. Like the Hell House and the way the relations are, it almost makes you forget that shit happened. And that's why I don't agree with it. I don't like the storytelling aspect of that dump truck. But when I go back and reflect, I'm like, well, what if the next game's going to be like that? What if there's only like 5% crazy, insane bullshit, but the rest of it is super honorable and like loves it. This game loves Final Fantasy VII, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And if the next game's like that, then I'm super down.
Yeah. Cool. What were you saying?
I was going to say that's exactly what I'm hoping to. I'm hoping that it's like, I hope it's the total package where it gives us everything we want in seeing these locations and characters in this brand new system, in this brand new light, and with all these more tangible, realistic connections. But at the same time, it gives just enough new stuff to blow our minds.
Yeah.
Not much to ask, right?
and I like the cool part of this game is that even though like it is a dump truck, everyone will agree like that shit hits you hard and you're like, whoa, everyone's confused at the end of this game.
Yeah.
But what I appreciate about it, and this is where I became a part of Nomura's crazy voyage, was
parasitical dick.
It's crazy parasitical dick is going to have residence for 3 years. Is that I went back and started reviewing the footage of the game, what we actually went through, and they sprinkled references and nods and all this stuff of where they're going with the story, where our characters are coming from, what Sephiroth is Aerith aware of what's going on? It's permeating the whole game. But on first playthrough with no context, it's not there. It's not there at all. You're just playing a remake. Yeah. And that's the part's like, shit, they thought this through. They really thought this through. They thought this through so much that the very first piece of key art they revealed for Final Fantasy VII was back in 2017, 3 years ago. Kitase, specifically when we thought they were going to show the gameplay, they didn't. They're like, here's just some key art. It shows a black winged Sephiroth with Cloud. And it's this cool piece of key art that is still referenced for the game. However, Kitase said when he released that key art, this is a new special piece of key art we have for the game. We hope you like it. And we also are looking forward to fan theories of what's represented in this key art. They were already setting us up that this is Sephiroth from the future. Yeah. They were already setting us up that they have this big plan of where this shit is going.
Yeah.
So you don't have like multi-year plans without a good idea of like what's happening. That's why it feels this is so like Marvel-ish what they're planning on doing. They're trying to get this fucking epic thing. Yeah, they're trying to go way bigger than what they had before.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Have you guys done any the hard mode stuff yet?
I skipped out on it. I know you and Max both have. Cohh, did you do any hard mode stuff?
I have not returned to hard. I'm kind of planning on returning and dabbling to hard mode down the road. But
okay.
Max, what was that?
Yeah, how was it,
dude? Did you fight Pride and Joy?
Not yet. I'm actually saving it.
Not
Like,
yet?
there's one fight that I'm like,
So-
okay.
yeah.
Everyone's like, go do this. I don't. Did JP or Cohh? Did you guys beat Bahamut, or did you try fighting Bahamut?
I
I
did.
beat Bahamut.
I did not fight him.
Okay.
I was so whatever by the end of the game that I was like, I'm good. I'll
Yeah,
come back
that
later
ending will
down the line.
derail the shit out of you. Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, big
I
time.
went back
I
and
unlocked it, but I did not. Yeah.
I naturally let my AP gain, so I had to get all the materia for Chadley all leveled up. I naturally just let that happen through hard mode. So I got to chapter 4 in hard mode, and then finally Revive leveled up, and Chadley is like, "Hey, here's your last mission." But the mission I was on was where Cloud is solo, and he's like, "You can go fight Bahamut." So I went and tried to fight Bahamut alone, and I got my ass kicked. And then I got my ass kicked, and an hour and a half later, I soloed him, and I was like, "Okay." So what the hell else happens now? And he's like, I got something else for you in like chapter 17. I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like so waiting for that. And then I love hard mode, dude. I love how
Dude, the fact
combat
you
changes
soloed that
and
is nuts
everything.
because I went to chapter 17 and I fought him with a party.
Yeah.
And he was
Oh,
still
really?
rough.
Okay.
He was
Yeah,
still
he's
really rough.
He's a weird
So
asshole,
the
but
fact that you
yeah.
soloed that is crazy.
I just
Yeah.
love the fact that this game is
Cloud
so
with
action
people?
gamey.
I actually took Cloud out of my damn party. Like there was no Cloud in my party when I beat Bahamut.
The big thing that changes in the first Bahamut fight, or at least when you first introduced to Bahamut, is the fact that you get items again, and you've been conditioned in hard mode to not use items at all. Like hard mode takes items from you away out of party, and it takes items from you away in party. So you can't use items in any way.
Yeah.
Like they're just useless. So since I had items again, I'm like, oh, this ain't so bad. Like you already are conditioned to hard mode stuff, and it makes it a lot easier to deal with.
See, I did the real hard mode and beat the game without any materia equipped on anyone. So
You probably could.
No, I
shit,
did.
You probably could.
I did.
Yeah.
I fucked
JP
up.
went into the final fight
check.
and he forgot to put materia on Aerith and Tifa. So he only had Cloud and the other two were useless.
Yeah. and
Wow.
it was a
Good,
fucking
good,
nightmare.
good.
I hated it, but that was my own dumbass for not reading. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really good fights in chapter 17 hard mode in the arena and stuff.
Yeah,
They
I'm
throw
watching
some
Pride and
really
Joy here for the
iconic
first time.
enemies.
It's pretty cool.
They throw like some cool bosses, and then there's they do a
Is-
summon medley as well.
Is the Bahamut
really cool.
is the Bahamut the same Bahamut you fight at the end of the game, model wise?
It's the same moves. Yeah.
Okay, same moves. Okay,
Same move.
gotcha.
Yeah, but that Bahamut looks way different because it's a genuinely different Bahamut that the Advent Children are summoning.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But I did that, dude, that boss gauntlet mission in VR where it's like you get the type 0 behemoth in the middle, and then you have to fight like a Marlboro in the end. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, they
I've
actually
gotten
threw a
so
Marlboro
far.
in? Holy shit.
Dude, I've been doing this shit for 30 minutes and they're gonna throw a Marlboro at me. I'm dead. Like I'm so
that's-
pissed.
What is the bad
thing that
breath
fucking-
mechanic? Do you have to run around behind him or something? Like
Oh yeah, it's huge. It covers like
Yeah.
the whole VR
Like a
area,
huge
except
cone.
one area behind him.
The thing that fucked me was you need bad breath as an enemy skill. So I'm like fucking running at the bad breath trying to get it, but it's
That's-
only a chance to get it. So like
Yeah.
I think I had to fight the thing 3 times and just get bad breath like party wiped before I actually learned bad breath. And I was like, oh
I
man,
still have
this
to
is
get
so
it.
awful.
I'm upset about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Are any of the enemy skills super OP? Like, is there a
Yeah.
Aqualung equivalent?
God, which there's one that basically like pulses out
Is that the HP one?
damage and then you heal for the damage dealt. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
from the
crazy good
ghost.
on
Yeah.
Tifa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
Um,
self-destruct and I had the that one that you just referenced, but I never really used them.
Yeah.
I didn't get one enemy skill in my first playthrough because there's so many moments where it's like you have this material loadout for your character and suddenly you don't have steel, you don't have enemy skill on,
Yeah.
and then you're just like, fuck, I can't.
That's
Like this
Yeah,
is a thing
Go
that
ahead,
they
go
could
ahead.
fix in the next game, right? Like this is the thing where like material loadouts.
Yes,
should
that's
be
what
a
I was
thing.
just about to say. I wish that was in the
Right.
game so bad.
You should be able, if there's other party members that you can just like, hey, maybe in the next game, how about this? Maybe in the next game, Vincent isn't in your active party, but you stick enemy skill, you stick steel, you stick all these other weird things on Vincent, and maybe I can just bring him in for a moment and then have him peace out. Maybe I can bring him in all the time if I want. What if they did like a Final Fantasy X sub-in system? How like you're allowed to bring in a character at any time in FF10, but they did that with Final Fantasy VII Remake combat, where it's like 3 main parties, and then you could choose through a mechanic to bring in any other character to swap out at any time. So you don't
Might
waste materia. There's no all this materia that you're not using.
You get
No,
a
make
lot of
make a-
materia. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make a
I want
loadout
us to
for
touch
everybody.
on I want us to touch on Aerith because in 7 magic sucks in the base game.
In the base game?
and the
good in
magic
this
the,
game.
the magic casters, which are like Sate Sith, Vincent to a degree, and Aerith. They're not great, but in this game, she kicks out.
She was OP as fuck. Yeah.
The magic as a system, so great, and the fact that it staggers specific enemies and it just has more uses. It just felt like it was a really, really good upgrade to like magic as a whole.
Aerith feels like she came from Final Fantasy 14 or some shit. Like she just learned some stuff in that game.
Yeah.
She kicks ass, dude. Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, for sure. I think
it was such a good upgrade.
Arcane Ward is probably the most broken player or like character skill in the game. Like
the shield's also crazy good too.
Yeah. Ray of Judgment also for stagger damage is like super strong. Yeah. She's just strong.
Every character is so much fun to play in this game, dude. My God, I can't even imagine Barrett. I'm sorry, I can imagine Vincent and like Yuffie and Sid.
Yeah.
Like how crazy are they going to get with their mechanics?
If Vincent moves like he does in Advent Children, it'll be fucking crazy.
If he moves like Rufus does?
Dude. My favorite is Tifa. The Tifa combat is so good.
Tifa was
so
really
satisfying for me. The way it chains is just,
it's good.
Did you try Tifa with Perry?
Yes. The slide.
She gets like the most broken slide. The thing is amazing.
Yeah.
She becomes so mobile. Yeah.
Huh. And if you do dodge attack as well, you can parry and then do the whirlwind kicks and just transition into anything. Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Combat was
really good.
Across the board. That's definitely, I think, for me, in terms of like the best parts of the game, music was king. It was the best part of the game throughout the entire thing. Like never missed.
Yeah.
Just every single time a new song kicked in or a remix song or even the original song kicked in, it was just 10 out of 10. Then combat. And funny enough, like story's probably the last, well, maybe not. Some of those, we didn't talk about it too much. Some of those images of like, when you're in the high-rise shit, it just looks bad. Like the textures on the ground. God, it looks so fucking horrendous.
Yeah, there's like 2 chapters in the game that are really bad.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that was rough.
I almost think it's like late polishing issues, or it's like actually a bug.
Yeah, because it looks so uncharacteristic for the rest of the game. It just looks awful.
I had a few people trying to be like, oh, they're just trying to make it like the original, and I'm like, no, they're not.
No,
dude. That was the excuse that I got for almost everything I complained about. No, man,
bullshit.
They're trying to make it like the original, bro.
No way.
It's like, no, fucking.
I love this game, right? I love the shit out of this game. I'm not going to defend like the super funky texture stuff up close in some chapters, and then obviously the climbing Shinra Tower aspect, like, or the climbing to Shinra Tower, like the skybox is hilariously bad, like almost comically bad.
Did you play in 4K, Max? I know you have 4K on some of your parts.
I played in Super Sample.
Okay, I think I was playing in 4K and it looked like worse by comparison to 1080p because everything's 4K, and then those backgrounds are not anywhere near that.
It's like something weird something either is weird going on with Unreal, or this was like a huge compensation that they couldn't fix and they're going to maybe fix later. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely.
But it's clearly like, give me the PC version for crap's sake.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think the PC version is going to look so.
Oh
good.
God,
when I went to the press event, they were so proud of the music and the dynamic system they'd created for the music, and it was like I totally understood it once I played.
Yeah,
it was easily
it's
the best, the fucking best.
It's great.
So good.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Wow, we've almost gone 3 hours. I didn't even realize we've almost been 3 hours. Is there anything else? Some people were asking me for you guys to explain Chadley. What's going on with Chadley? What's the
I know.
I don't know, and I kind of hate him, so I'm gonna leave it to Max.
Oh, you guys don't know what Chadley is?
No. I haven't looked into that.
Oh shit! All right. Oh no, I know, and I haven't beaten it. Right.
Oh, so it tells you in the challenges or something.
There is a special cutscene after you do every single challenge that you can get with Chadley in the final VR arena in like chapter 17, I believe. I watched a video on it, but I got spoiled. Chadley's a fucking robot.
A Shinra robot?
Chadley is an android made by Hojo to battle assess you.
Doesn't he say that at the start?
Not specifically,
no.
but it's revealed in the
like
very...
That is like,
he's
like a spy working for them. Yeah, he doesn't say he's a...
Chadley's a goddamn robot!
I said multiple times in my chat, I was like, there's no way he hates Shinra, and there's no way he does all this shit without Hojo knowing. Like, that doesn't make sense.
I just looked at him as Hope from 13, and I hated him.
It makes a lot of sense.
So I just thought he was Hope.
Yeah, I'm feeling an emotional response, like all this weird shit. He's literally a robot from Hojo.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How else is Hojo going to test you, right? Like,
I haven't beaten Pride and Joy yet. I've only done the fight, so I hadn't seen that scene.
Okay. Yeah, it's right after.
Gotcha.
Somebody from my chat says Can we please talk about the dancing scene? There's nothing to talk about. It was beautiful.
It was fucking incredible.
12 out of 10.
It was so
Best part of the fucking
goddamn good. Yeah.
It's like, dude, the dancing scene, the getting Cloud in a dress, like all that kind of stuff where it feels like these were all the things like you can't do Hell. This is what everybody said leading up to this game. You can't do Hell House in this Final Fantasy VII. You can't do cross-dressing scene in 2020. These were all the things that people said for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
What did Square Enix do? Oof, they nailed it. They knocked it out of the park. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's one of the best parts of the game.
Yep.
That's why I don't have any worries about the next game.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm super excited, because the things that were tough for them to handle, like thematically or story wise, or like how do you have these weird goofy characters in a world that looks so realistic like this? They destroyed it. It is some of the best parts of the game.
It was really good. Except that fucking final championship pull-up challenge, motherfucker.
Dude, yeah.
You just gotta get lucky.
Well, you just can't mess up.
I did that shit for an hour.
So
my chat was like, strip it to this for an hour. Yeah, I got that a lot.
It took me about 40 minutes, I think, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great, though.
That was definitely one of the mini games that they tweaked a little bit that actually worked, I felt. Like it wasn't, not necessarily mini game, but I guess just like the puzzle aspect that we were talking about earlier. Like they tweaked it enough to where it was fun.
All the mini game stuff is fun. It's just that the environmental puzzles are like PlayStation 1,
I guess
PS2
those are two
era.
different things for sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious when you guys did the, oh God, it's right before Cloud drops to go with Aerith, when they're placing the bomb, and you go up to the thing where you have to have Barrett, Tifa, and Cloud hit all the buttons at the same time.
I loved it.
How many of you, where were you guys first looking when you were trying to time that the first time? Because I was not looking at the UI elements that were front and fucking center.
Right there.
I was looking at like the hands. I was looking at like the UI elements above. And the chat was like, just look at the fucking monitor. Like, what is this idiot doing? It's right there.
Like
For me, I found the timing. The timing was slightly off. So if you went when she said go, you fucked it up.
Well, there's probably streamer delay with all the shit that your capture is going through.
Well, yeah, but like also, I mean, I did this in a press event, and I was like, I'm so fucking ready, and I messed up so many times on stream, and chat was just laying into me, and I didn't want to say that I'd done it already and fucked it up again. So I was like, yeah, this is the first time I'm doing this. It's kind of hard. But yeah, it was.
I got in the press event. I got fucked up on that shit. It's like 15 times. Or something like that.
I was like, what the fuck?
Oh man. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we call it?
No, I think just overall, like this game hits you pretty hard in the end in ways that you're not expecting, and in ways that feel like they just betrays the rest of the game. And I think upon like introspective review on like what you're expecting out of the game and where it's going, I think it's super bold with what they're doing. And I don't agree with the path that they chose, but damn, dude, I am so excited with where it can go in the future based on the boss fights, the combat, how this game set up the things that I thought they were going to screw up, like characters and the storytelling of those characters. They killed all of it. They did it so well that I wasn't expecting them to do it so well. I've never had a game whoop my ass as emotionally as this game did because of my attachment to 7. So
sure,
I'm like, Nomura's stupid parasitic dick in my ear is going to hold residence for quite some time.
Nice.
So
hey, he had me there for 14,000 Kingdom Hearts games. It's nice. It feels great sometimes, you know.
Sometimes
the massages.
Yeah. And then when you get to the end,
sometimes he pushes too hard.
Sometimes he'll push a little bit too hard. It's a little bit rough. So
let's hope he doesn't go too deep.
Yeah. Exactly. Strippin, you want some final thoughts?
Dude, I fucking loved it from start to finish, but I acknowledge that like people like us, we are the target audience for this game. And if you're not and you haven't played 7 or Crisis Core, like go do it, dude. They're all great. Like you got 3 years to kill, and like, and also like
you're
if you really
home,
enjoyed this
you can't
game,
go outside. You got nothing to do. What are you doing? Download
and you're
the
on
games
quarantine
right now.
I will say if you did really enjoy this game, there is so much to see playing it through a second time. So much you didn't notice before.
Oh yeah,
it really is worth a second playthrough. And yeah, I adored the music. I adored the combat. The ending was a little bit weird, but it led us here. So it is what it is. And I genuinely feel like they will be true to the franchise because it is theirs. Kingdom Hearts is like, all right, Disney's in on this, but this is like theirs, right?
It's their
and
baby.
I think
it's true.
it's their baby, dude, and I think they are going to do it justice, and I'm really excited to see what's around the corner.
Yeah. Cohh, some final thoughts?
First of all, I want to thank the 3 people on the show for reviving me a bit. This is like talking about this right now has been the best I've felt in like 4 days. I mean,
Cohh was like,
nice.
guys, I
maybe
was
forget
like
about
45
being sick for a
minutes.
bit.
I'm feeling really bad.
Like, I know. I see. Like at the beginning of this, I told JP I was like, I might make it like half an hour, like maybe an hour. So also big thanks to chat. It's been a lot of fun, like reading along with you guys. But no, I mean, Final Fantasy VII to me, it's the remake. A couple quick things. First of all, what Strippin said, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a great game to play if you've never played the original. But playing the original before you play it gives it layers that are just non-existent if you don't. Some of the flashes in the flash forwards that you get, you won't understand if you haven't played the original. Some of the little character quips, some little things, like it adds a layer of depth that is just, even though you don't need, makes the experience a lot richer. So like I've been telling people, you don't have to play the original first, but especially now that you have time, probably play the original before you dive into remake, and it will be that much better. If you've already played remake, go back and play the original, then play it again. Like Strippin just said, like it's totally worth it. Play it on hard mode the second time, have even more fun with it. But yeah, like remake to me, man, was the total package. I mean, there were music was incredible, the graphics were incredible. The relationships fostered with the characters were second to none, even for some of the top tier RPGs I've played. I don't think I've ever had a period in my streaming career where I was just dead silent as long as I was at the end of this game. Like, just completely blown away. Just like, what is going on? Like, just it was incredible. And I also love how the game not only delivered everything and more that I could have wanted from what they had shown from the original, yet somehow delivered this crazy new and exciting experience on top of that. It really was a situation where I like had the cake and was able to taste it too. Like and you just don't get that from games a lot these days. And like Max said, it makes me so fundamentally on board with whatever they're going to develop in the future. Like knowing that if they are going to take big risks, that they're going to do it in a way where they're clearly going to try their best to kind of root it with concrete connections if you look hard enough. Like knowing that they're taking it that far, knowing that they're working that hard to make the connections, makes me so much more comfortable with being like, go wild, guys. Like anything, like I'm on for this ride. I bought the ticket. Like, let's do this. Like, this is going to be good. And I have a lot of faith in it. So yeah, man. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake was an experience, and I can't wait for more from them.
All right.
It's like we had a lot of expectations. To me, it feels like they over-delivered on a lot of them.
Absolutely.
I would agree.
It absolutely does.
Yeah, from a gameplay standpoint, 100%. Music standpoint, 100%. Yeah. Final question. Chat's been asking all day.
Well, no. Give us your thoughts, motherfucker.
My thoughts?
Yeah,
I mean, I think I agree with everything you guys have said. Like, I'm excited to play more of that game. I'm curious to see where they go with the story. I have my own issues with it, but hopefully they can like quell those by going into the second game and actually like exactly what Max said. Like the idea of the dump truck shit at the end, if they somehow eke that out over the entire game, and maybe not like in ways that you have to have seen the end to understand everything else happening throughout the game, and they don't go into explaining what the feather means on a metaphysical level.
It feels like the past is really creeping up behind JP. Like the past is definitely lingering. Like it feels like Square did this to us.
Oh, I know.
Like this is, we are this way because you've done this to us all these years.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do
Look,
it again.
I've got like 200 plus hours of Kingdom Hearts. All right. I've got some bad juju in my brain kicking around there.
You do.
So I'm excited to play the game that they make. Story-wise, I'm excited to see where it goes, but I have my own reserves. Like, I think I'm going to look at it way too critically, and I think I actually started this game out with the wrong mindset of that this was Final Fantasy VII, like, remade, but it wasn't Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I went through the game with expectations of, like, I need to go down that corridor because I know in this next room, this is probably supposed to happen, and that's a point of no return. So let me go down that path and just make sure and then as soon as I like got that out of my brain, I enjoyed the game 10 times more. Because I was like expecting everything to occur and how I experienced it so long ago. And so like once I got rid of that and actually got on the ride, so to speak.
Yeah, because this game is a ride. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, I was in. But yeah,
I remember messaging you when you beat the game.
Oh, I was heated. I was heated. When
I was like, you didn't look too happy, and I think the only thing you said to me was, "Sam, I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan. Nomura has hurt me so fucking much. I just don't know what to make of this." It was just like a totally understandable quip.
Yeah,
but
and
I think it's really obvious that you love the game as much as anyone else does.
For sure. Yeah, I also think that it is like there's two camps, right? There's people like myself who I did not do any of the legwork that like Max and even Code to some extent. You guys like sought out a lot of explanations or a lot of theories about that shit. I didn't. This is everything that you guys said here was the first time I had heard any of this stuff. And it actually like made me in some ways appreciate the game. But I'm also fearful of like, I wish I didn't have to experience that out of the game, right? Like I want that to be within it. And so that's where a lot of my reserves are.
And I agree with you, dude. I agree that like, why would they have this Bloodborne-esque ass ending that makes you have to revisit the game and reevaluate things? Like, I think on a level for like a popular game and something that is so revered in pop culture and video games, why have this super cryptic?
Oh no. Nomura cut him off. No. He's back. He's back.
Fucking. Oh God, sorry.
You lagged. Okay, you're good.
We're back 10 seconds. Nomura tried to assassinate you.
Why does this keep happening? We're having a blast, like going back and figuring this stuff out. But I don't agree with them making this like deep dive sort of ending where we have to like figure out all these conclusions and stuff. Like, I like being set up for like the unknown. I think that is really cool. But the way they did it, I feel like they almost did it too much. Where it's like dump truck scenario.
Yeah.
A couple of minus points for what is a selfish ending that kind of only catered to one element of the fan base, I think, and that's us.
We also have to keep in mind, though, this is the first game in what's clearly a saga setting. So there is a very good chance that a lot of the stuff we're discussing right now is going to be made more concrete, maybe given like full explanations. Like maybe they're even going to go back and reference being like, what do you think all those black feathers meant? Well, and then like put up a billboard with like pictures and stuff. Like maybe it was designed so this first game would be like the conversation starter, and then the other game would be like the actual conversation, where all of it takes place and more explained. Because again, like a lot of the stuff in this game, just like you guys are saying, unless you really do all this research or have played the other games, you're just not going to understand it. And they did specifically say that they want the remake experience to be its own tale as well. So there will probably be, a standalone thing where you don't have to reference other material just to understand it.
Yeah.
So, we may have more time and we may be getting a lot more concrete answers going forward. And I can't assume that the end of this thing will be as kind of airy as this. We're right at the cusp of like a giant drop. So we'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, Nomura said he's been working on this since Crisis Core, a remake.
Yeah. That the plan for this game is has been around for a very long time.
He wanted this to be the finale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they handle those compilation elements the same way they handled it in this game, dude, it's the way you should do it, right? If there's games you should check out, FF7 OG is great. You should definitely check it out to get some perspective. Crisis Core will teach you a lot of Zack, and he's a great character in that game. And completely ignore Dirge of Cerberus. Just with every fiber of your being, I will argue, get as far away from that game as you possibly can. It will make you not like Final Fantasy VII if you play Dirge of Cerberus, dude. Like, please don't.
Someone said to me, "What's wrong with Dirge of Cerberus?" And I was like, do you remember any FPS games that Squaresoft made? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's what's wrong with Dirge of Cerberus. There you go.
And not even that, dude. I played it recently. Story wise, like, this is such trash. Like that game is so. I'm sure it has fans, and I'm not saying you're allowed to like it. I personally feel it is such trash, dude. I cannot handle what they're putting on screen and what they're talking about in this game.
What if they remastered Dirge and put it out? What would you say? Yes or no?
Remake. Dirge of Cerberus.
Not remake. No. Just a remaster.
Enjoy Dirge. Just enjoy it. Like don't ask me to.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Nomura did say he's going to incorporate elements from these games into. He wants to incorporate them into Remake. Yeah. So
they did Dirge stuff already.
Yeah,
for sure.
he said.
Like,
I mean, he said to a degree, like they're gonna get retconned because
Yeah.
they're gonna be pushed into this game. So
Yeah.
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 And Deep
hopefully,
Ground, where
hopefully
you
we get to
discover
experience that
Behemoth,
shit.
Yeah.
like where you discover the Behemoth, that's like a reference. Deep Ground, the underground lab, is a reference to Dirge stuff. So yeah, that's the way you handle it. That's without it being like super overbearing and Genesis holding an apple and Vincent spewing weird shit. Like that's the way you handle it.
Makes sense.
Fuck.
Final question. It's been asked all day throughout the chat. Aerith or Tifa? We're going to go around. Everyone's going to make their own pick. And then we'll do shout outs and we'll call it the show. No explanation. Just one word answer. Strippin, Aerith or Tifa. Okay. Max?
Tifa.
Is it going to be Cohh?
Aerith.
Oh, I thought we were going to be 4 for 4 Tifa. We're 3 for 3. 3 for 4. Or 1 for 4.
But Aerith got better.
Aerith 100% got better. 100%.
100%. It went
I'd
from like
argue
100%
Tifa got
Tifa
better,
to like a
too.
70-30.
Yeah.
For the record, I would have been Tifa OG.
Would have? Oh, if that was an
I
option.
would've- Final
I
Fantasy
think by
VII
the end of-
original, I would have been Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm Aerith.
By the end of this saga, you'll be on board Tifa.
I think Tifa got
Guarantee
better
you.
too in the remake. I agree with you,
I
Max,
did too.
Yeah. All right, let's do some shout outs. We'll call it
Kate
a show.
Sith.
Oh, God. What if Kate Sith somehow ends up being the best character?
It's the best character. How? How did they do it?
How did he do it?
Do
Strippin.
you guys want to know how
Oh.
to actually pronounce Kate Sith?
No. Don't like ruin my life.
It's Ketchi.
Yeah.
Nah.
It's like some Gaelic shit.
Nah.
Did you know it's actually Mako?
They keep saying that. I think that the VO, it's like in Persona 5 where they made all
Always been
the.
Mako. Come on.
Did you know it's actually Final Fantasy?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's fantasy.
Fantasy.
That's what it is.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Cloud.
Cloudo. That's his name. Yeah.
Finale Fantasy.
Strippin, stop making nonsense up. Do some shout outs for us.
It's fucking real, dude. What's up? My name's Strippin, guys. You can find me at Twitch.tv/Strippin. I'm a variety streamer. I do have a penchant love for RPGs, but I play a bit of everything from 7 GMT every day.
Awesome stuff. Max, do some shout outs for us.
What's up, guys? Max here. Twitch, Maximilian_dude, and YouTube, Maximilian Dude. If you want to check it out, shockingly, I normally cover fighting games. It's my favorite genre. My favorite games in the world are fighting games, but believe it or not, my favorite single title is Final Fantasy VII, which is why we're here today. But if you're looking for a majority of some FF7 coverage and a lot of other fighting game stuff, yeah, you can check me out on YouTube or Twitch.
Awesome stuff. Cohh, do some shout outs.
Big thanks to Max, Strippin, and JP. This has been a lot of fun today. Thank you for the time. You guys for watching as always as well. My name is Cohh. I'm currently sick with something, as I have been the last 4 days, so my schedule is all over the place. We have reruns running to my normal time from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tomorrow I'll be starting a little bit late, probably around 10 as I'm running to the doctors in the morning. Currently playing through Fallout 76, XCOM, Chimera Squad. We've got some other fun games coming up next week, like the Remnant from the Ashes DLC and some other cool stuff. But as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You know, Cohh's
Get well
sick
soon, Cohh.
when he doesn't nail
Get well soon.
his outro.
Oh my God, dude.
That's
I'm
his
so
line.
tired.
Cohh, please get better, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, get well soon,
Yeah,
dude.
for sure. Definitely get better. Let us know. I'm sure you will, but let us know how the doc goes.
I will.
tomorrow.
I will.
Yeah. What do we got coming up here? I'll be playing Persona 5 after this and probably for the rest of the week, as well as Gears Tactics, whenever we can play that. Wednesday, we'll have another normal episode of Drop Frames. Zeke will be back. I don't know if we'll have a guest. That's Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. I think we're going to have more Echoes of Eternity with Strippin playing Star Wars with Jesse Cox and Pocket and Anna and Bikeman on Thursday. Doubleheader of pre-show coming up on Friday. We have Munition and Jericho on Friday. Then on Monday, we've got DJ Wheat, Day 9, and Shocks joining us for that episode. 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern, respectively, for those two shows. And then we'll see what else is going on. So that's it. Thanks, everyone, so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed whatever this show was. The Spoilercast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, and thank you guys
Thanks for
also for coming on. That's it. We're out. We'll see you for the next episode. What do they call the next one? What's the next game called?
Rebirth.
Ooh.
or
Ooh,
Reunion.
I like that.
Renew?
I think Reunion's the last one.
Or Reunion
Yeah,
might be
Reunion's
the
the
third
last one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rebirth is a great
Oh,
shout.
that would
though.
be good.
Rebirth for
Remake,
second.
Rebirth, Reunion.
That's it. Square will be in contact if you want to buy that idea. All right, we correct.
We'll make the website
I'm gonna go get
Yeah.
the domain. It'll be like
Yeah, get
$5.
the domain now.
That's easy money, man. Come on.
That's easy money. All right, we're out of here. We're gonna go buy that domain and contact Square to see if they want to buy it. We're out. Have a good
Hey, guys.
rest of your day. Bye.